it. Wrong one. I can't do this shit right.
Welcome to the Bass and Brews podcast, your weekly distraction from other high-quality podcasts. And now, your host, Alex from Swamp Rat Fishing, and the co-hostess with the mostest, the Jabberhammer, Paul Roberts.
Hey-o! Look at here, y'all. Y'all don't see no swamp rat fishing up in here with us, do you? I don't. I know Greg don't. He ain't here. Y'all, he quit on me. He just left. He said the hell with it. He wants to go back to swamp rat fishing and all that. So I'm just kidding, y'all. He has some stuff come up. He can't make it tonight. He might be able to sneak on later. We don't know. But for now, you have to listen to my handsome ass talk with our special guest tonight, Mr. Greg Blanchard. Greg, how you doing, man?
Good, man. I appreciate you having me on. And hey, I gotta say, I like that intro. Who's that lady talking? Kind of introducing you guys.
Man, let me tell you, that there is Saltside Jess from the Paddler Playbook, the sweetest voice in podcasting.
I know. That's what I was gonna say. I was like, wow, this is nice.
Yeah.
Well done.
If you want to hear some good Jess voiceovers, go to Paddler's Playbook, check them out. But it's not consistent because Drew doesn't give her heads up to do stuff in time, and she goes on strike when she doesn't have time. But now that's Saltside Jess from Paddler's Playbook. It's cool. Great, and they made that intro for us, and it was awesome. We love it.
I like it. I was like, wow, awesome intro. Love it.
I know. I mean, it changed the game. When I heard that thing, I'm like, heck yeah, here we are. Well, man, what's been going on with you down in the West Coast?
Oh, man, not a whole lot. I mean, yeah, I'm out here in California. It's, fishing is always filming, fishing, YouTube. I mean, that's probably where you know me from is the YouTube videos. Yeah, it's been an interesting year, man. Like, I don't know if it's just the water or lack thereof water out here in California, but it's been tough, man. It's been really tough lately on all these reservoirs that are just so low. And man, I got to go to New York, originally from New York. I got to go to New York about a month ago and actually fish places with water in them. And that kind of rejuvenated me a little bit. And now back in California, just grinding it out. But I will say the one good thing about California out here compared to New York is, we can fish year round. Eating is pretty good in December, January, believe it or not. So, yeah, man, that's pretty much it. Fishing, working, editing, miscellaneous life things, nothing crazy. How about you? What have you been up to, man?
Man, just, about the damn same. We finished up our tournament season, and I didn't do as well as I wanted to this year, but I've been able to get out. So I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina, so we get to fish year round too. And starting now until like March, April is when the Jordan and Sharon Harris and Falls, this is where people start catching 30-pound bags pretty regular. As a matter of fact, the last month or so, there's been quite a few 25 to 30, 31-pound bags come out of these three lakes up in here during local tournaments. So
those are largemouth or spotted bass fisheries?
Right now, these are predominantly largemouth. You'll catch a spot here and there, but they're predominantly largemouth still, which is kind of funny since we're a couple hours, 2.5 hours from Norman and Wiley, where the spots are taking over. But so far, but these lakes are a little bit different than those. These lakes are pretty much damn mud holes.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, they aren't really deep. Don't have a lot of clean water. I mean, 6-8 inches of visibility is a good day.
That kind of reminds me of the Delta a little bit, though. When in the spring, just that shallow, dirty water, power fishing. Probably, I'm guessing a lot of blade baits, crankbaits, stuff like that. That's fun.
Yeah.
Though. That's fun.
Yes, it is. We're getting into the jerkbait A rig. This is what a lot of these bites are coming off of those big bags. So yeah, I've been getting out there fooling around with that on the kayak, doing some fishing on that. I own my own business, so I'm doing the work thing. Got kids playing sports. It's just regular old living life. I mean, that's about what it's been up to. You said something a second ago. You probably know me from Facebook. And anytime you hear anybody on a podcast or YouTube, not Facebook, YouTube. The hell am I talking about? YouTube. I bet 99% of kayak anglers have said one day in their life, I wanted to start kayak fishing or fishing, and I saw Greg Blanchard fish out of a kayak.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, I
maybe.
swear, everybody you hear that's on any kind of platform at some point that has said that. I mean, everybody has found you at some point in time.
I mean, I've been around for a minute, man. Like, I think, 2013 is when I started my YouTube channel. Oh, by the way, are we cracking beers? Because I got beers.
Yeah. We just doing the little funny intro. Yeah, let's crack a beer.
Okay. I was gonna say.
Hey, we'll let the guests go first. What are you sipping on today?
Oh man, probably if people know me from YouTube or have seen my videos, they probably know I've got a Sierra Nevada Celebration Fresh Hop IPA, seasonal. It's one of my favorites actually this time of year when it comes out.
Not yet. We crack them together.
Oh, sorry. What do you got?
I have a Sierra Nevada Atomic Torpedo, 8.2 alcohols. It's got 8.2 alcohols in it.
I know that one. My buddy Alden, he had that at his wedding. And
Holy
they thought
shit.
they thought it was actually a lower ABV, and they got it, and then everyone got hammered. It was awesome, including myself.
With 8 alcohols in it, you damn sure got to be careful with it. And this is the 19-ounce can, so I'm gonna be feeling good at some point tonight because I have my regular White Claw Surges of eight alcohols in them behind me in the fridge, so we're gonna roll. Well, let's crack these babies open. You ready?
I'm ready.
1, 2, 3. Nice.
I'm gonna pour mine because I'm a beer snob.
Wow, that does not taste like 8 alcohols. That right there will sneak up on you in a heartbeat.
It's dangerous, man. And when we were at the wedding, so they had the open bar, and that was the only Sierra Nevada they had, and the only beer they had, and they had wine. So they had that and then wine. So if you didn't drink wine or you drank beer, that was like your only choice. And it was buddy Alden Walden. Shout out Aldi, his wedding, and it was a good night. I don't remember much, but it was a lot of fun.
Hey, those are the best weddings. I mean, the weddings that you don't remember nothing at. I mean, those are the ones you had a good time.
Oh yeah, it was a good time. Oh yeah, the first sip always tastes so good.
Yes, it does. So refreshing and crisp. Especially on here, it's cold and rainy as hell. So we get that little warm feeling come down through your throat to your tummy. That's how it works there.
I love it.
So, Greg, what is the journey that has brought you here right now on Bass and Brews podcast, talking to my dumb ass?
The journey. Oh man, should I start from the beginning?
We have as long as you need to take. It's your podcast. What's the journey?
Oh boy. Well, kind of like we were talking about earlier, man. Like I've been around for a minute as far as YouTube goes. So first off, I'm from Seneca Falls, New York. That's where I grew up. I think just like everybody that fishes or, fishes, a lot frequently, I think we all kind of grew up fishing with either like our dad or our grandpa. It was mainly my grandpa for me. So, I mean, I've been fishing for, since 3-4 years old. And it's always been something that I've just loved, man, like obsessed about is, it's just the one thing in life that I've never, sometimes you get into something and then you get away from it, sports, hobbies, whatever. But fishing has always been something that I've just been like, yeah, this is my passion. And did that all, through growing up, did sports too. But really it was, as far as the YouTube and the kayak thing, that was kind of an accident. I grew up fishing from the bank, none of my family members had a boat. We just did the bank fishing, worms, minnows, like crawfish. And I think that's like some of the coolest memories too. I always remember like being little and like going to like the bait shop and like scooping the minnows out and the crawfish. And, if the fishing wasn't good, then you could always play with the bait, play with the crawfish, play with the minnows. So again, no boat. And in college, summers off, my family would rent a cottage on Canisius Lake. It's one of the Finger Lakes. It was kind of our summer tradition, summer vacation, so to speak. And I would always get, a boat, a rental boat. And it was my one time of the year to basically get off the bank and get out on a boat. I think it was like a 25 horse, just aluminum boat, no trolling motor. And we just get that thing, park it at the cottage, And I had a paddle. And the funny thing is, I mean, I was so bad at fishing, and I still am sort of. But I would just take this boat. I'd take this boat.
Right come on, don't patronize us when I'm kind of bad.
I don't know, man. I've had some stinkers, but no, just to show, like, to demonstrate how little I knew, I would just, I get off the bank, right? This is the time. So I take the boat right out to the middle of the lake, literally the middle of the lake, and just huck a spinnerbait and throw a Senko. Those were like the only two baits I knew how to fish. And I didn't do that good. Like all of those summers, I think it was like 3 or 4 summers leading up, I never really did that good. I'd always had like a little bit more success fishing right off the dock. And I still love the boat. I still love going places. But one of the last summers we were there, I took the boat back and we still had a day to stay. And I saw some kayaks underneath the cottage. And I don't know why I never thought of it before, but I'm like, well, I got a rod and a tackle box. Let me just hop in this little kayak and paddle around these docks and fish. And that was kind of like the aha moment, because I was getting under these docks, in between these docks, places you could not even get, a big boat. And I was catching way more fish in that little evening session of fishing than I did all week in the rental boat. And I was like, dude, this is doable. You can literally get in a kayak and go fishing and catch fish. You don't need a big boat.
Yeah. And what year was that when you got into that kayak?
I think that was 2011, if I remember correctly. So 2011, and that was a summer of 2011. And I believe it was either that Christmas or the following that my mom got me. Again, guys, I'm a broke college student at this time. I'm still, living off my parents. She got me a kayak for Christmas. I'd done, some research, and I picked one out on Amazon, a Lifetime Manta kayak, a little green kayak, sit on top, paddle kayak. And I got that for Christmas. I think the thing was like $500, and it was free shipping because it was Prime. So what a great deal. And that
was an expensive kayak back in the day too.
Yeah. And, it was one of the only fishing kayaks I could find because it was actually advertised as a fishing kayak. And
because they had 2 rod holders.
Yep, and well, you know what? I don't even know if it had rod holders, but it was a sit on top, and it had, it may have. I don't actually think it did. It had bungees and stuff to put your tackle. But yeah, I had that for like 2 years after that. The first year I had that little green kayak, I did not film. That was the one year of my life in a kayak that I did not film. There was no GoPro involved or no YouTube. But the second year I had that kayak is when I got a GoPro and a MacBook laptop and started filming and putting it on YouTube. So like if you go way back to my first YouTube videos, you'll see like the first year, just me in this little green kayak with a paddle with duct tape on it. And like I made my rod holder. Okay, so actually I didn't have rod holders because my rod holders, I remember taking PVC pipe, like little PVC pipe, and like cutting it in half and then taping 4 PVC pipes together with duct tape. I love duct tape apparently. And I had only 2-piece rods at the time. So I just stuck my little 2-piece rods in there and I just, stick them together. And that's how I did it. Real simple.
That's how everybody back then was doing it, because I mean, there were no attachments. I mean, there were, but they weren't things that you just found. I mean, the kayak fishing was the DIY rabbit hole, as that's what I would like to call it, of fishing. I mean, the people DIY'd everything up until 4 or 5 years ago things started to change. But yeah, totally. Back in the day, man, it was, and I got my first kayak in I think 2015 or 16, and even then, they were starting to come out with more, but there were still a lot of DIYs on the YouTubes.
Dude, I remember. I remember watching Marty Zoffinger. You ever see Marty Zoffinger? He's one of the DIY YouTube legends for a kayak. He's got a couple of really, really cool videos from like 15, 20 years ago of him tricking out. Oh God, what is it? A little Pelican kayak with. It was amazing. And I got a lot of my inspiration of, kayak fishing and DIYs back then was YouTube. Like, where do you go to find something? YouTube. You had to search for it. And there wasn't much. I feel jealous of the people that get into kayak fishing nowadays. It's like, oh, do I want a motor or do I want a paddle? It's like, man, I was just happy to have a paddle back in the day. But
that wasn't duct taped together.
I know I broke the paddle. I had to duct tape it. I didn't have any money, so. But
What made you want to pick up a GoPro and start filming? Was it from watching the YouTube videos and getting in there? Did you have some kind of film background or aspirations? Why get the GoPro and start filming your fishing?
you know what? That's funny. That's a good question. No one's ever asked me that.
What
I
the?
think I always.
Time out. How the hell are we talking to one of the biggest fishing YouTubers out here? Nobody asked you why the hell you even started.
I don't do a lot of podcasts. This is probably like my third podcast ever. That's probably why.
And the other two were with Nick at Casting Frame.
Yeah. I did one with Bailey, I think. I may have more than that. I don't know. But no, I actually so leading up to the kayak filming thing, I was obviously on the bank. And in college, like my summers off, I go to the same bank fishing spot. It's called Mays Point. It's just north of Seneca Falls, New York, where I'm from. And I would literally go there like 4 or 5 times a week and get my pack of Senkos and just, I mean, it has current, so that helps, repopulate the fish. But I'd fish there, dude, probably a sickly amount. And I remember filming myself with my phone, like, God, it was like oh God, it wasn't a flip phone, but it was like one of those like the tablet things, those thick things with a
BlackBerry.
I wasn't even a BlackBerry. It was like a touchscreen thing with,
I know what it was because I had one. What the hell was it? Yes. Yeah, it'll come to me later.
But I would film. I like set that up and film because I thought it was cool, like see myself catch fish on camera. And I actually still have all that footage. I have every video of me catching. Yeah, someday I'll probably post it. I don't know when or where it'll be appropriate, but it's cringy to say the least. But I think that was kind of just like the idea of filming and putting it on YouTube. I saw the GoPros literally just came out, or they're relatively new. I think I had like a 3 or something or 2. I'm not even sure, but I thought it would just be cool to as a hobby to film myself and make a video using my just a MacBook. Side note, my editing background, and this is just totally honest, I don't think I've ever said this publicly, but in college, I used to make power hours. You ever heard of a power hour drinking game?
Yeah, that's like one of the few times I peed on myself.
Yeah, they're dangerous too. So I would basically steal the music off of YouTube, like the YouTube video. So I'd make power hour DVDs. So instead of just like listening to 61-minute songs, I'd make like a video compilation of different video music videos, and they would switch and have the ding, the bell, and I brought that to like pre-game college parties. We'd just pop it in, put it in the flat screen, and that's how I got to learn iMovie, with making drinking power hours. So,
and we're going to talk about that too, because how you in your editing journey. I want to get into it now because I've heard some stuff that you said previously, and it's kind of interesting the way you did, how you progressed in that. When you started putting stuff on YouTube, did you just see, was it like a boom rocket to the moon, or was it a grind struggle to get going? Did you ever get discouraged, or you just enjoyed it and you just kept doing it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I just enjoyed it. There was I wasn't even obviously I didn't make any money off of it at the time. I'm not even sure how many people did. I mean, I'm from the YouTube era. When I started watching YouTube, I remember watching One Rod, One Reel, and he had sub 1,000 subs. I remember watching John B, AP. It's essentially the guys that got into YouTube first and made good content, and that's how like a lot of those guys got so big, is because they were the first ones there. Right place, right time, right personalities. But that was like my era of starting to watch YouTube, when all those giants of the game now were like just small. And I for me, it was just for fun. It was just a hobby. I mean, I was almost done with college. I think actually the first year I filmed was my last year of grad school. And kind of another side story, I guess I wasn't completely sold on the kayaks either, because I remember having like this fantasy of finishing school and having a career and then buying a bass boat. Like I always wanted to buy a Nitro Z7. That was my dream boat. I've all of my life, I've watched like Bassmaster and Pro Fishing. So seeing those guys in those boats was kind of my motivation. But no, getting back to your question, no, YouTube was just what it was. It was a hobby. There's no pressure. I knew it would, well, I didn't think it would be a career ever because I had a career I was about to start. And no, I never got discouraged. It was just the side thing. So, yeah.
What was it, a video or was it a time frame? What was the catalyst for when YouTube started, when your channel, when you got the 10,000 subs and the 50 and like, what was that catalyst that started bumping that up to where you're like, holy shit, this is something?
Oh man, that is a good question. I have never had in my time on YouTube like a month or a week, well, I guess more of like a month period where things got just so crazy with subs and views. I'm like, holy shit, like this is crazy. It's never.
You didn't have that one video that just went apeshit viral?
I've had maybe 5. And when I say viral, it's not even that viral, maybe a couple 100,000 views. But I've never had in my time on YouTube like that moment where like, oh my God, I gotta do something. This is, because that can happen to some people with content. Like they get like, a couple 100,000 subs overnight or over a week or a month or whatever. And then they're like, wow, I can kind of leverage this into a business. It was never like that for me. I would say the first memorable moment for me was was it 2014 or 15? It was in Holden Beach. I think that's by you, right?
Yeah, that's out on the East Coast for sure.
Yeah, Holden Beach down there. I was with my girlfriend at the time. It was a family vacation, and I think I brought all my stuff down to like do a video, like surf fishing for like, I don't know, perch or whatever. And I remember that week when we were down there, I saw that my subs, I had 500 subs, and I was like, holy shit, look, I have 500 subs. And then, that was like, I don't know. Those are like the little moments that I remember for whatever reason. And then, I'd say it really changed though, where I started to say, okay, you got to start, you don't have to, but you should post regularly. You can't just take any time off, which I've never done, knock on wood. But I'd say that was probably like 2015, 2016 after I went to Texas. So at this time I'm traveling for work. I was a PT. I'm still a PT, but I was a traveling physical therapist.
My wife's a PT.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Great profession. She can help you with all your aches and pains, right?
And I have a ton from all the shit that I've done in my life with sports and wildland firefighting and being a damn idiot. I'm always got something. I'm like, except for dry needling. The last time and only time she tried to dry needle me, I almost passed out. And so that's it. It's usually her screaming at me and me telling me it's not helping. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Or it's probably her telling you to shut up and put ice on it and go take an Advil or something, right?
Well, she's a mean PT, but she gets people right. And so, it's the same thing when family tries to do something in their profession to help you, they're extra mean and you're extra defiant. You know how it goes. I'm sure you probably have.
Just love. A lot of love. But
tough love.
Yeah, exactly. Texas is when I was traveling, doing travel physical therapy, and I went down there. I remember seeing some videos on YouTube from guys in Texas, Mark Cisneros, Big Worm. He's a buddy of mine. He posted some stuff on YouTube. And it just looked like a good location. My girlfriend at the time, she wanted to go down there. I had a new kayak by then, which is kind of another side story. But I had a pedal drive kayak at that time. And I had a really good year there. I had a good tournament season there. It was my first like official tournament season with the Cat Series. I don't know if you remember the Cats, the Kayak Angler Tournament Series out of Austin. Got AOY, had some really good tournaments. It was all luck, by the way. I know people be like, don't be, you're being humble. No, I came down to Texas with my 2-piece rod still. And, and I was fishing against some hammers, like guys that have been fishing out of kayaks for like 15, 20 years. I mean, so those guys have been doing it for a long time.
Hell yeah, that Texas scene, especially that East Coast, and that's where the guys from Paddler's Playbook are. They're on that East Coast, Galveston, Houston area. I could be fucking up the geography, but anyway, somewhere in there. And they talk about being out there fishing in kayaks in the early 2000s, and having redfish tournaments for them. But yeah, that Texas scene for sure was early into the kayak game.
Yeah, they were. I mean, and that was the thing for me. It was like when I went down there and I showed up to my first kayak tournament, and there's 100+ people there in kayaks, and I'm like, what? Because I had done some tournaments in New York and Delaware, and it was like 15, 20 guys at the most would show up, and then you get down to Texas, and you see guys with like 15 rods, and you see, other people with pedal drives. They're still really new at the time, and it was just like, wow, this is a crazy little community here, and I love it. And
you show up down to Texas and start whooping their ass with 2-piece rods in Texas, and they're like, "Where are you from? New York City." New York City. It's like Ace McConaughey commercial or whatever. New York City.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I think I surprised a lot of people. I will say, everything's set up. I just discovered a Strike King Rage Menace. I just discovered flipping. I just discovered shallow water flipping. And the time that I was there for the tournaments was like February to June. The season ended in June. But I was getting like the prime time shallow water flipping bite, whether it was spawners, or post spawners. And I just happened to hit a good stretch every tournament. And, I had I think one win, a couple of seconds and thirds. And I say it was luck because it just set up perfectly for me. Right place, right time, right conditions, right bodies of water. And, it was a lot of fun. And I think, if they had like the stat line or the odds at the beginning of the season, if they had like a fantasy thing or whatever, like the draft game, I don't even know what you'd call it, but I'm pretty sure my name would be like one of the 1,000 to 1 AOY chances. Like there was definitely guys up there that might be 10 to 1 or 15 to 1 chances. I was not one of those guys. I was a long shot, but if you'd put your money on me, you would have made some money.
Heck yeah. Well, let's back up there for a little bit because we're skipping the part of the fishing journey.
Yeah.
You said you had just found the Rage Menace bug, and before you were talking about spinner baits and the Cinco. Were you starting to expand your knowledge and technique base up in New York, or did Texas was that a stepping stone for you to expand that? Where were you in like your the art of fishing?
So when I first started kayak fishing, I pretty much threw that spinner bait. I had one bait casting rod. It was actually, I almost threw it away because I didn't know how to tune it, and it was like super like I cast it like 10 feet basically, and I didn't know how to like loosen the tension and stuff. But they had like my spinner bait on it, and then I had a spinning rod, and wacky Senko was my jam. That's all I threw. I remember I was at my buddy's house in like 9th grade, and he lived on the lake, and he had a dock that they said that this bass showed up every spring. It was like, old Rusty, the big one that always came and nobody could catch it. I don't know what the hell they called it, but it was like, but the fish, fish type. But it was there. Yeah, there's this big ass bass under the dock, and nobody could catch it. So we went to Bass Pro Shops, and one of the employees said, "Oh, you want to catch that fish? Just throw this plastic worm." And he gave us a pack of Yamamoto Senkos, and we're like, "How do you throw this?" And you just like take a little hook and stick it right in the middle. This is, I think, before even O-rings. And we did that, and like literally the first drop on that fish, and it bit, and we caught the fish, and it was like, holy shit, this thing works.
And y'all took it home, filleted it, fried it up, and ate it.
No, we threw it back. I think as parents actually wanted us to throw it back because it was kind of like their pet bass. I don't even know what that would call it. But so that was like the moment I found out about the wacky worm, and it just caught fish everywhere. This was like 9th, 10th grade, and all throughout college, I didn't have a kayak. I fished from the bank, so those were all my bank fishing videos, like a wacky worm, sometimes a spinnerbait. that it's sad to say it, but I didn't throw anything else. But I kept catching fish on a wacky worm, and that was the start. And then when I got into kayak fishing and got off the bank a little bit more, I started, doing the YouTube deep dives into different baits and techniques. Frog fishing was one of them that was one of the earlier ones. I really like throwing a frog, even though I was using the wrong equipment. I was using a 2-piece medium rod from Bass Pro.
Good Lord.
I have no clue how I hooked into some of those fish, but apparently it worked. Maybe because they're New York fish, they're smaller. But dude, it really was, I think, just a gradual process with everything. From New York, I went to Delaware to fish some tournaments. I met a couple of guys in Delaware that took me out, and I tried to learn some of their techniques. One of them threw the chatterbait. That's where I got introduced to the chatterbait, was in Delaware. The guy's name was Sean, and he was one of the first guys I met in Delaware. We fished together, did some tournaments, and he told me about the Z-Man chatterbait. And that's when I picked up the chatterbait and was catching fish. He showed me like a Texas rig, and Texas was, a learning experience for mainly the Rage Menace. I just got into that. But yeah, as far as like techniques and stuff, it's always been like a gradual process. Like I've never really like tried to master everything at once. It's just kind of been like a journey. And if there's any subs out there that are listening to this and they are like, there from day one, they can probably see, if you've watched, I doubt there's anyone that's watched every video I posted, but you would see that there's been like a gradual process of learning different techniques and getting a little bit better at this and that. And, that's how it's gone. But and I still got a lot to learn. Trust me. That's one of the cool things, is right? It's you never stop learning in the sport.
Fishing is a never ending educational opportunity. I mean, you go out there and wax their ass today, and then go out there tomorrow, same conditions. Let's not even throw all that in the same conditions, and get one bite or no bites. I mean, it is always a learning experience. Yeah. So you go New York and Delaware, down to Texas, kick some ass down there in cats. Where do we go from there?
Oh, geez. Where do we go from there? After Texas, I think we come home. So one of the nice things about doing the travel PT thing is you're only working for like 3 months at a time, 4 months, however long your contract is. And then in between, you can take some time off if you want. So I think I went back to New York for a little bit, spent some time with family, did some fishing there. But the next big trip, or the next big move for the job, was Southern California, in Palm Springs, California. And that was an interesting one. That was a place that California in general was a place I never wanted to go. And I was still with my girlfriend at the time, and it was a fight. It took a couple of years for me to finally be convinced to go to California with her. And I finally gave in. I'm like, fine, fuck it, we'll go to California. And it was a pain in the ass getting licensure, and you had to take like a jurisprudence test for the PT. And
I can only imagine what it's like there.
Yeah, it was a shit show. I actually just got a truck. Finally, I was driving a little Hyundai Santa Fe, putting my kayak up on the J racks. And I finally got a truck. And,
what kayak are you top loading now?
So that at the time, it was my second kayak ever, and it was the Slayer Native Watercraft Slayer Propel 13.
So you were car topping a big one then.
It wasn't too big. It's nothing like the Titan, but I remember after 2 years of having that Lifetime Manta, my biggest gripe was, how the hell do I cover more water? I love fishing, I love exploring, but I can only paddle so damn far. And then I literally had this thought. I'm like, I wonder if they like make kayaks with like a pedal, like a bicycle system. Because I'd seen, you've seen those those like boats with two people in them with like the flippers, just for fun.
The pedal boats, the old pedal boats that you rented,
Yeah, so I researched, I Googled like kayaks with pedals, and two kayaks came up. It was the Native Watercraft Slayer Propel 13 and the Hobie. And I think I just liked the idea of the bicycle motion and the reverse. So I bought one of those, and that was the kayak I had my second kayak. So that was the one that was going to California with me. That was the one that went to Texas with me, to Delaware. And yeah, I remember, it was, I think, just after Christmas. We had a snowstorm in New York, and my girlfriend and I are scheduled to work like in 3 or 4 days, and we got to make this cross country trip
Holy shit.
to Palm Springs. And I just got in the mail like a tonneau cover and like a rack system. So we're like setting that thing up till like midnight. And the next morning we take off in the truck, kayaks on top, all of our stuff's in there. Her car is actually getting shipped out, and make the cross country trip and go to Palm Springs. And I don't know what to expect. I do a little bit of research as far as the fishing goes, because at this point I am committed to YouTube. Again, I don't even know if I was monetized. I don't even think I was really, but
what year was this?
This was 2016.
Okay.
So I knew that I wanted to get some content no matter what, and I still like the base behind all this is I'm like also obsessed with fishing. Like we all are, or some of us are. Like I just love to fish. I can't get enough of it, and hence why I went to the bank spot like 4 or 5 times a week all summer, like a madman. But so I did a little research, and I saw Paris Lake. Paris Lake was one of the top results for Southern California bass fishing, and I saw a guy holding up like I don't know 45-pound limit of fish, and they said that the bait he caught all these fish on was a Huddleston. I'm like, oh shoot, I got to get a Huddleston. So, dude, I mean, again, it just shows how little I knew at the time, and I still don't know how to swim bait fish. But I remember getting a Huddleston. I remember going to Paris Lake and just like hucking this thing. It wasn't even a big one. It was like the 6-inch one. I was just out in the middle of the lake and just reeling it in, thinking, oh, I'm just gonna get a 10-pounder, and it never happened. I skunked there. And the saving grace as far as YouTube content down there was Palm Springs is it's like a retirement community kind of thing for the most part. That's where a lot of our patients were, snowbirds that would come down and have a golf course house. And the good thing about that was, there other than Paris Lake and then the Colorado River, 2 hours to my east, Paris Lake, hour and a half to my west, and I skunked there, and I don't know how to fish it. The good thing was all these like communities, all these golf course places had ponds. So my coworkers got me into these ponds. I had patients give me access to these ponds. So that's where a lot of my content survived, was these golf course ponds in Palm Springs. So
these ponds were probably not very pressured, and I'm assuming they had big fish in them. I mean,
I never caught a big one. I heard a couple of guys catching some big ones, but I caught a lot of fish, a lot of 2 to 4 pounders, and they were easy to catch. I mean, I probably could have thrown anything. I think that's actually where I learned to throw a square bill. My first time ever throwing a square bill. And that was kind of like the saving grace for content wise, because dude, it was pretty bleak. That was also the first time I flipped was down in Southern California. I went back to Paris Lake, the lake that I threw that Huddleston and skunked. I went back a second time to try to get some revenge on it, and I guess I just didn't check the forecast that morning. I don't know about you, but I feel like I always check the forecast. For whatever reason, didn't check it that morning, and get there, and it is blowing. The wind is intense, and I'm like, damn, I made the drive, I'm like, well, it can't get much worse, and whatever, I'll just go do it. And I got on the lake and I crossed the lake. I don't know why I crossed the lake, but I did it. And it just
this seems like a good idea. Let's go.
It's blowing 30, gusting up to 50. Let's cross the lake. I'm the only one out here. What can go wrong? So I literally did that, and I think about halfway across, I'm like, oh shit, this is not going to work. So I turned around. I'm going at the waves sideways. Waves are going sideways, and I just hit that right wave with the right gust. It was literally gusting 45.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's bad down there. When it blows down in Southern California, those Santa Ana winds or whatever.
Santa Ana winds, yep.
Yeah, they get moving, and hit me at the right angle, flipped me completely. Water temp. This was January, I think, end of January, early February. Water temp was 52, maybe. It was either 50 or low 50s, and I was like, holy crap, when I got in the water. I never flipped before. I'd fallen out before, but that was in the summer, and that was fine.
Yeah.
But as soon as I hit the water, like within a couple minutes, like my body started to slow down, and
Mm-hmm.
the waves and the wind are just so much. I can't right the kayak. I can't get it back right. And
And you're in the middle of the lake at this point too. Like how far from either bank are you at this point?
oh, I'm easily 100 yards from the ramp,
Hmm.
and nothing else is close. I'm
And
in the
fucking
middle.
breaking white cap waves too,
Yeah, I'm
probably.
in 80 foot of water. I don't even know what I've lost at this point. And there was one other boat out there, a nitro, and I think I got really scared when my body started to slow down, like when I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't moving as quick. And that's when I had a whistle in my PFD, and I just got that thing out and started blowing that whistle. Luckily, those guys weren't too far from me. They heard me. They came and rescued me, flipped my kayak over, drugged me to shore. Still don't know who they are to this day. But yeah, I mean, that was pretty crazy. I've lost a lot. Phone was toast. Had to get home. I don't even know how I got home. Rods were all gone. I remember losing GoPros doused. Yeah, it was a bad one, and that was just that was a good learning experience, because now I'm really careful. I try to be careful about the conditions you got, and because that's no fun, man. I don't know have you ever flipped before, or you probably know someone that's flipped.
Well, yeah. I mean, we've had a couple here locally this year. I've never flipped, but
Yeah.
I'm very cognizant and careful of all that just from hearing stories. So it's always kind of top of mind when the wind's blowing. I ain't also, well, I say I'm not dealing with 40-mile-per-hour winds, but I fished a couple tournaments this year. My dumb ass was out there braving the weather, but I was very cognizant.
Yeah.
I almost flipped at the Hobie on Santee this year, that first day where the wind was kicking, and it was shallow, but I got a Hobie PA 14,
Okay.
and when it's shallow, I usually keep my foot on my pedal to keep the fins up.
Mhm.
Well, there was just one little green mat that I was trying to flip, and I hit a stump sideways with the wind blowing me sideways. And it's actually one of the few videos I've got on. I think it was a short on YouTube, but if I'd have been standing up, or if I'd have been leaning against with the wind, I would have damn sure gone in that gator infested water. But
Ooh,
I
yeah.
got lucky. I got lucky and didn't. It scared the hell out of me though. I'm like, oh shit, I'm a fat ass too, so it wouldn't take much to talk. If it would have been anything besides a Hobie, I probably would have went over.
Yeah, I was gonna say, being in a Hobie, like, now the boat's bigger, it's not as
Mhm.
much of a concern. Again, this was my little native watercraft,
Yeah.
Slayer 13, thin, skinnier kayak. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm still pretty gun shy nowadays. Since that ever
Mhm.
happened, it kind of scarred me. I do have it on the video, or on the channel, my YouTube channel too.
Mm.
What sucks is the GoPro, as soon as it like cut out where I actually flipped, because the GoPro got destroyed. But that I still had the GoPro and the SD card, but
Mm.
I have the footage leading right up to the point where
Yeah.
right before I flipped. And dude, not good times. I had to reevaluate my life after that, and all that kind of stuff, and drink a lot of beers.
Where am I at getting this nitro bass boat that I've been wanting for years? Because I'm not sure the kayak is the way that I want to continue
Oh
on.
God, I know,
Yeah.
right? And
I
then the
mean, that is,
nitro rescue. That's like perfect. I
yeah,
should have just bought a
yeah.
nitro. The nitro guy rescued me, and I was like, yeah, no,
I mean, that's scary as hell. It's just scary in general flipping, but then you lose all the shit that you lose,
yeah, it
pretty
sucked.
much everything in the kayak. But on top of that, to be in the weather conditions with the water temps where you're at, where that's life threatening. You do that in the summertime, you can at least grab your shit and hopefully tow it back, or at least get to the bank and get your kayak later. But that right there is that's life and death situation that you're in
Yeah,
at that point.
no, totally, dude. And honestly, I didn't even really realize that until like a day
Mm.
later. I'm like, what if
Mm-hmm.
that nitro boat wasn't out there? I was just getting pushed towards the dam, and
Mm.
I mean that would have taken a long time to get there. But I don't know, man. I mean, it's kind of, I don't even like to think about it, but it could have been a
Mm-hmm.
number of scenarios that played out there. So yeah, I mean, I guess if big lessons were PFD, of course. PFD always,
Mm.
no question, even what the conditions are, and whistle. But I'm glad I had
Yes,
a
the
whistle.
damn
Whistle,
whistle. Hell yeah.
whistle. Forget the phone. Forget. I mean, always bring that stuff, but whistle. simple little thing to have that I mean, saved my butt that day. So.
Did you have a good life jacket on? Was it one of your typical PFDs or was it one of the auto inflates? What was it?
No, it was NRS Chinook.
Okay,
I've always
so you
used
had a good
yeah. I've done the auto inflates on like a bass boat, but I don't know, man. I'm just so used to wearing a normal NRS PFD.
It's where I put all my shit, right? Like all the stuff that I want to keep from going anywhere on the boat or getting wet. It's right here. I don't have to dig around for stuff. Even when I'm not tournament fishing, I always wear it because that's where all my shit goes.
Yeah, totally. And it's funny, like and I'm sure you're the same way. I've gotten so used to it. Like when I actually fish out of like a buddy's bass boat and I don't have a PFD on, it feels so weird. Remember, like, dude, like the first time I ever went out in a bass boat, it was like, I don't even know, it's like 5 years ago, and we were frog fishing on the Delta, and we caught a bunch of fish. And I remember like getting home and then the next day being like super sore. Like I was really sore. And I like lift my shirt up and I have a huge like bruise on my side. And it's because the rod butt kept hitting my side, whereas the PFD normally absorbs that shock. And I was like, dude, I'm with you. I like that PFD. You get little compartments. It keeps you warm. It's it's safety. It saves your life too. So
yeah, that's the biggest thing, especially on the kayaks. Look, 99% of the people that drowned out of kayak, canoes, boats, anything like that, where they're in a floating device and they go over, 99% of them can swim. But you can swim until you can't. And when you can't, you sink.
Yeah.
So it's important to have that shit on, bud. So we're down in Palm Springs. Where do we go from Palm Springs?
All right. So Palm Springs, good time, good job. Met some really cool people down there, but this is actually where the girlfriend at the time, this is where we split. We take separate ways for, reasons I won't mention, but probably because I fish too much. I'll just be honest.
Let's throw it out there. Fishing. I mean,
it is true. It is true. I mean, I like I said, I'm obsessed with fishing. So, I mean, you go work 5 days a week and then you get your weekend off to go hiking or explore a brewery or whatever. And then I just go fishing because, again, this is, I'm working full time. So when I can fish is the weekend, like a normal person. So anyways, we part ways, and I'm already out here in California. And again, before this, I didn't even want to go to California. I was not having it. I just didn't want to go that far. And I just didn't see there's no reason to go to me. So, she drugged me out here and I'm here and now we're, split up. So I mentioned to you, I always loved watching like Bassmaster and pro fishing. I always watched it growing up, and I remember seeing them on the California Delta, and that was one of the places that always kind of stuck in my mind. So I researched where the California Delta was, and it was up in the Bay Area, up near San Francisco. So I said, all right, well, I'll try to get a job there. I got the kayak. She's got her car. I got all my stuff. So I'll just go get a job there and try fishing the Delta. I love frog fishing at this time. And the Delta I hear is like this amazing frog fishery. So that's where I go. And I come to so the funny thing is I don't know where to live. Like when you look at the California Delta on a map, it's not just like it just doesn't say the California Delta is this spot. It's like the entire bay connected to, this like 3 major rivers and then leading all the way up to Sacramento. It is thousands of miles of river. So I'm like, where the hell is the California Delta? And because I'm looking for places to live. I'm like trying to find a place to live near the water. And I'm looking at freaking places like that basically is salt water. When I'm like, at the time, I'm looking at like the Grizzly Bay area. I'm looking like way. What is the California Delta is more so inland, like way inland. And I'm looking at places near where you could probably catch like a freaking shark or something. So luckily I didn't move to any of those places and take my kayak out and try to do that. But I found a place, like a room. Dude, a lot of my career has just been living in Airbnbs, renting rooms, renting like little in-law suites. And it was an interesting time in my life, but I find a place and I find a local kayak series up here called Bass. They're on
Mm-hmm.
YouTube, magic of YouTube, find anything. And I go to a couple of spots and have some fun, some good frog fishing, do a tournament, do okay in the tournament, meet some people up here. And believe it or not, that was the only one of the things you have to, one of the risks of being a travel PT is you're filling a position that they need to fill. You know, you're filling someone maybe on maternity leave, or they just can't get a physical therapist for that building. But once they do, someone full time, you get a 2 weeks notice and you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, it never happened to me. But this particular job, it did. They found a full-time PT, and I've only been there for about a month. And I get a notice, and I'm out. And I don't know if I was like homesick or what at the time, but I decide, okay, that's fine. I'll just go back to New York after this. So,
what year is it?
This is 2000. Oh God, I want to say 17, end of 16, 17, going into 17. Yeah.
So your YouTube is really taken off at this point.
Not really. I mean, I think I maybe had like 4,000 or 5,000 subs at this time. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's something that I'm invested in. I enjoy. Mm-hmm. It's easy. You know, I don't fish all the time, but when I do, I like to film and I like to make the video. And, you know, I'm still posting regularly to my channel. And, yeah, I decided to go back to New York, end up fishing a little bit in New York, taking some time off, and then I go to the Adirondack Mountains up in Saranac Lake, which is beautiful up there. If you've never been, you should totally go. It's just it's quite the experience. And I happened to find a job. It was one of the few jobs in New York for a traveler. There wasn't many jobs in New York for me, other than like New York City, which I didn't want to go to. So I took that job up in the Adirondack Mountains. Had a buddy up there, so I got to hang out with him, fish a little bit, get some good content. And I think that lasted 2 or 3 months. Came back home to Seneca Falls, had a job there for the winter. And after that, I went, so I basically did like a repeat. So I went New York to Texas to California to New York. And then I basically decided to do it all again. So I'm sick of the winter. The snow is annoying. Yeah. To go fishing. I remember Texas was really fun, really good to me. So I go back to Texas, but I end up going to East Texas this time, in Hemp Hill, which is right by Sam Rayburn and Toledo Bend, which I did not actually fish either of those two places. I'll be honest. I was too sketched out by the gators.
Look, they ain't gonna bother you. There's only 25 people eating a year from alligator. They ain't gonna bother you,
dude. I know, and I even called a couple of like local game wardens and whatnot, and I was like, how many people have been killed by an alligator in the past like 30 years? And it's like just one. It was a guy that was drunk and jumped on one, and I'm like, oh, okay. So, but I still didn't go.
That'll do it. There we go.
It's too sketchy for me, and I still might be sketched out, but I went to places that probably still had alligators, but I fished other places. So East Texas was another short stint. And after that, I basically went right back to California, right back to where I am now in the Bay Area. I think that was 2018 or 19, probably 2019. And that is pretty much where I've been since. Out here in the Bay Area, fishing, the Delta. And that first few months when I got back to California, I want to say it was actually 2018. That first few months was when I hit 10,000 subs on YouTube, which was, again, probably one of the moments I do remember as far as like a milestone in subscribers or whatever you want to call it. And I don't know, things just kind of worked out here. I enjoyed it out here. I enjoyed the jobs that I had out here, enjoyed the people, enjoyed the tournament series. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
So a funny little side note, in 2018, I was a wildland firefighter. This ain't 2018. I don't know why the fuck I said 2018. In 2008, I spent a couple weeks in Big Sur fighting a wildfire out there.
Oh, no kidding.
It was the second most miserable wildfire I had ever been on. I got the poison oak strain out there in the Big Sur area is like the most aggressive poison oak strain in the world. And I was out there head deep in it, highly allergic. head deep in it with a chainsaw for 2 days to the point my knees swelled up. I couldn't see my kneecaps. I had it from the tip of my head, every crack, crevice, bald, butt crack, down to my toes covered in it. Beautiful. At probably one of the top 3 most beautiful places I have ever been, even though it was scorched earth, on fire, and hot as shit. But I've been to that area, and we got to camp on the Pacific coast because we were at some old naval station. It was weird, but it is a beautiful area up in there, man.
Yeah, Jesus, yeah, the fires, man. Like I have a buddy that he doesn't fight them, but he does the cleanup afterwards, or he did, and oh man, I got to give you guys a lot of credit. That's like, dude, that's scary, man. Like, you've seen some of those videos that come up when there's fires and people like driving out of them and stuff. Oh man, those things.
Yeah, I was a dozer operator. I wasn't on that fire, but down here in the Southeast, I was a dozer operator, and I've been a police officer and I'm a swaddling firefighter. And there's not many ass puckering things in this world than coming around the head of a fire that's 20, 30 foot tall flame lengths, and you're kind of sitting there looking at it. But it was fun. I loved it, enjoyed it, got to see a lot of good stuff. But I didn't do burning buildings. If the house is on fire, I was calling the damn fire department, getting my ass out of there. I don't do burning buildings. But the woods are on fire. I'm like, man, let's go. We're having a good time. Short and flip flop. Let's go take care of it.
Now, did you get to fish at all?
Hell no. No, it's like you're in. I mean, it's like you're in damn prison. You eat camp food, MREs. Maybe depending on where you are, you might get to shower. Once every 3 or 4 days. Usually, it's taking bird baths with some water, or wet wipe. Carrying wet wipes, and at least doing the crotch and cracks. But yeah, no, you didn't get much time to do shit. You were there to do whatever they wanted you to do.
It makes you appreciate, though. It makes you appreciate a day out on the water, right? Just like
it does. I mean, it was matter of fact starting in 2008 to pretty much 2020, I didn't fish. I lived a quarter mile from the Savannah River for 4 years, and hardly. I had some I grew up fishing, so I had all my fishing shit. I didn't have a boat. I got a kayak. We got 2 kayaks, and we go out there to the river, and I'd fart around with some ultralight shit, but didn't fish at all. I didn't start back fishing until I got back to Raleigh in 2020 is when I started. First time ever on a kayak in 2020. That was a learning experience. Trying to, I thought I was going to, I know how to fish. Got on a kayak. I'm like, boy, I fucking suck.
It's definitely different.
Oh my gosh, so different. It didn't take me long to realize I ain't paddling either. I'm quitting fishing and going to play golf, or I'm buying a pedal, a leg driven, 2 horsepower driven, manual horsepower driven kayak. So I got that.
Nice.
When you're up there, so where you are now in the Seneca Falls area, the Bay Area, that's when you started getting into the crap. I'm having a brain fart. Your local club there, Yakabass.
Yep.
So you started getting a Yakabass. Is this the time when you started making these connections and these buddies and this group of guys that y'all are that travel around and fish together and shit, right?
Yeah, fish, get drunk, eat greasy food, take massive dunks in the morning, apparently.
What is wrong with you? Why the hell every damn video y'all go and y'all get together and y'all drink and eat pizza, and every day the next morning everybody's like, well, the food didn't agree with Greg again.
Oh my god, dude! I don't know why we did. I guess it's tradition. I don't know. It's
every video you've got the food didn't agree with Greg.
You think we'd learn and eat like something healthy and like hearty and nutritious, but no, just drink a ton of beer, eat some greasy food, and pizza. Oh, geez, man, every time. It's like literally every time. So I don't know, man. But no, that's that first year that I got back to California, my second time, but kind of really officially the time I've really been here. I got into Yakabass. Fished the first tournament I fished was at Lake Comanche, and that is where I didn't know anyone at the time. I didn't know anybody. And I saw a guy when we were, getting ready to blast off. I saw a guy like with these neck tattoos of crankbaits, and he's just like, "Hey, what's up, dude?" And I'm like, "Hey, what's up, man?" He's like, "Nothing." He's like, "Is this your first tournament?" I'm like, "Yeah." Is it yours? out here, of course. I'd done tournaments before. It's like, yeah, my first one too. And that's really all we said. And I fished the tournament. I think I don't even think I did that good in that first one, but enjoyed it, had a good time. They had a series, a schedule for the entire year, and I was going to do all of them. And I get a message on Facebook, I want to say, from this guy Mike, and it's Mike Ensign, and he's the guy that said what's up to me at the dock. He's like, "Oh, dude, our next tournament's at Big Break. I might come up there and pre-fish. You want to come pre-fish with me?" And I just lied, and I said, "I don't think I can do it, dude." And I think I might have had to work, but I didn't know the guy, so I just I'm kind of weird like that. I don't just like randomly fish with people. But I ended up not having to work, and I was like, "Well, I should probably pre-fish." And I messaged him back. I'm like, "Are you still pre-fishing?" And he's like, "Yeah. Do you want to go now?" I'm like, "Yeah, why not?" So end up going to pre-fish with this random dude. And that's, just had a good time. We shot the shit, had some fun, did some fishing. And that's kind of where Mike and I our friendship began. And there was another guy too that had talked to me after this tournament and a couple of tournaments after, named Alden. He was actually on crutches at the time. He had hip surgery. So it was this poor fellow with crutches getting out of his kayak. Everyone had to help him. And maybe I was like sympathetic. I'm like, "Hey, what's up, buddy?" And like he's like,
trying to be like, "Hey, what's wrong? You need to come see me at PT. Let me fix you."
Yeah, basically. And Alden, he's cool. Alden was cool, and he's like, "Hey, man, you want to fish sometime?" And I said, "Sure." So I met him at the Delta. So at this point, I don't know many people in the fishing community, and I've only met Mike, and then I met Alden, and we've kind of chatted after tournaments. Had a few beers, then parted ways, and then. I think our fourth tournament of the year was at Clear Lake, and we kind of all three of us kind of know each other, and we're like, "Do you guys want to like go up together and like camp or something?" And we're all like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" So we make arrangements to go camp at the Kayak Casino on Clear Lake, and we're just truck camping. We got some like RV spots with our trucks, and we all show up, and we all have beer. We all enjoy beer, and we all knew that about each other, so we figured, why not?
Mm-hmm.
And that night, we just this is our first kind of time actually hanging out other than fishing. That night, Alden, Mike, and I just, get super drunk, have a great time. We go into the casino, lose some money, eat some greasy food. And that, of course, does not sit well the next day. That actually led up to the infamous incident of Mike's stepping in some of my leftover food from the night before.
That is I have never, when I heard that story on fucking Nick's podcast, man, I laughed so fucking hard. Dude. You got to tell that story. You got to tell that story. And it might not be the exact same. Y'all need to go listen to the Castle Crank when Greg was on there with Odeby and Mike, because they were all there to tell that story. But you have to tell that fucking story. That shit was so fucking funny.
It's funny / disgusting, but yeah. So that's exactly what we did. We got really drunk, had a good time, went to the casino, ate some really greasy food. Haven't been back there since. Just FYI. And then the next morning we get up to go pre-fish, and it's dark. It's like 5 a.m. And then Mike and I go to this one ramp called Rodman Slough. It's it's basically a dirt path leading into the water. So it's hard to see. Yeah, there's no lights or anything like that. And as luck would have it, my stomach twists and turns, and there's nowhere to go to the bathroom. So I just kind of, where I think is a protected area, do my thing. And what happens is, I guess I was still really close to the ramp area where I released. Yeah, sure. I took a dump. And Mike, unfortunately, at the end of the day, getting his stuff back together, had the privilege of stepping in it with his brand new shoes and not realizing it, and getting in his truck, and then realizing it after it's in his truck on his shoes, and he's got like this horrible smell.
In his rubbing in his carpet.
Yeah, and that's how our friendship started. Basically, that solidified it. I was like blood brothers right there, shit brothers.
I think I remember him talking about. He kept going, "What the fuck is that smell?" And he gets out. Didn't y'all meet up or something? He said, "I stepped in dog shit at the ramp," and you're like,
Yeah. He didn't realize what it was until I told him later. I probably should have told him. I probably should have kept him wondering all these years. Dude, what was that? What animal lives up at Clear Lake that took that terrible, nasty dump? But now he realized it was me.
That's like the original fart spray dookie prank right there, except it was a real one.
yeah. Not my proudest moment, but that's just what happened. That's the story, and he's still my buddy today. So I guess he didn't care too much. I think his wife was mad at me because I ruined his new shoes.
Well, you're out of all the videos that you put out, those are some of the most fun ones. When you put out the Yakka Bass tournament videos where y'all go sit and hang out, you got all the fishing that you do, you have all the camaraderie that you have going on and stuff, and it really, so your whole YouTube channel, you tell a story so well, and I think that's why so many people relate to you and they like your content, because you tell such a great story. You have an innate ability to bring us with you. It's the camera angles, it's how you tell the story, it's how you talk to us. Those videos encompass like that tournament scene where you go hang out, you fish for 2 or 3 days, you have the tournament. That story that you tell through those videos in those 2 or 3 days is really awesome and really cool. I think people get invested into your tournament fishing up there because of how you tell that story. And people, it's the same thing with TV. We get invested. We feel like we know who y'all are. It's really good how you do that. You do a great job telling that story.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I'll say this though. Those are some of my favorite videos to edit, but I know that it wouldn't be possible without like my buddies, like Mike Alden, Obedy, Dutcher, Bam, Juan, Lawrence, anyone who's ever in a video, like I'm super appreciative of, and they're all good sports too, because it's 5 a.m. and Mike's taking a dump and there's a camera outside the bathroom, something like that.
But he don't care.
Nah, Mike's hilarious. I think they're so used to it at this point that they just kind of, they just go with it. But no, I got to give a lot of credit to those guys, because they're obviously all my good friends, and they're just hilarious, good people, and we have a good time. We always have a good time, and I'm glad I can show that to the YouTube community, and just kind of especially to people that maybe want to get into the sport or looking to tournament fish. It just kind of showing them it's not all as Obedy would say, getting in your onesie and tucking in at 9 o'clock at night and reading a bedtime story and getting a good night's sleep. Yeah, there are times that probably should be what you do, but it's not just that. It's about getting a group of people together, having fun, having some beers, greasy food apparently, and it's more than just the tournament. It's more than just the fishing. It's kind of like this community aspect. And, it's a lot of fun, and super fortunate to have met all those dudes, and they've definitely helped for sure the content and the channel. So I definitely got to shout those guys out.
On the tournament side, you're a little bit of an anomaly in that you do fish some of the national tournaments out and about. How do you manage that being in California? And I mean, because let me preface this, and you can tell me if I'm wrong or not. My local trails here, all of our lakes that we're fishing in this Raleigh area, like, are an hour and a half away. Every tournament we have out of the 2 trails, we like hour and a half. It's most of the time I get up in the morning and take my ass there and come back. Yeah. Like you might have damn 6 hours to go to a lake. I mean, so even your local trails up there are kind of national type events when we talk about and look at the travel and the time investment on it. So when did you get into the national scene, and how do you work that being from California?
It's not easy, I'll say that. So my first national, like true national tournament, was KBF National Championship. Oh, was this 2019? I think at Kentucky Lake. And at this point, Alden and Mike and I have known each other for about a year or so, and we enjoy fishing and hanging out. And we decided we all qualify because there is a KBF chapter out here in California through Yakabas. So we decided to do that tournament, and that was interesting. That was, and this is not going to be a good example as to how logistically you should set up national tournaments. But I remember we all decided to go. I actually had a really good friend's bachelor party in New Orleans the week before. And he was a New York friend, a guy I grew up with. So we coordinated it. So I flew into New Orleans, hung out for like 5 days. Mike and Alden drove from California, picked me up in St. Louis, I want to say, which, oh man, that was a crazy week. I mean, imagine bachelor party for 4 days in a row and then driving it like
in New Orleans.
Yeah.
I did a bachelor's party in New Orleans for 2 days, and I ate so much I couldn't even drink. And I tell you what, I still drank, but yeah, that was a mess.
Yeah, it was not a good way to set up going into a national level of competition. Right. So I drive to St. Louis, or no, do I? No, I fly. I fly from New Orleans to St. Louis, and they pick me up at the airport, and they're both dead. They've been driving all night from California, and they're like, "You're driving the last 4 hours." So I drive, and we get to Kentucky Lake. We get to our Airbnb, and we ended up getting some groceries or whatever that night, and then getting up like at 4 a.m. the next morning. And the one thing I didn't realize about Kentucky Lake, because California lakes are not big. Like you can drive around most places within 20, 30 minutes. But Kentucky Lake, some of the launches we were looking at are like an hour and a half away. Yeah. And we end up going like almost 2 hours to our first launch down in Kentucky Lake. Mike, Alden, and I, 3 dudes that really don't know what they're doing for the most part, have no sleep, definitely not me. And we get out on the water. It starts like storming, lightning. It's all sketchy. We catch like 1 or 2 fish all day, drive back to the Airbnb. That week was crazy weather-wise, and there is a series on or videos on my channel showing that week. But we have like snow, we have hail. It's just like I don't even know how we survived because it was like no sleep, driving like 3 to 4 hours a day between launch locations, and then we had to drive to the captain's meeting and then the awards every day. It was just crazy. That entire week was crazy, but that was all of our first taste of a national competition and really preparing it from out of state. And it was way more than what we had thought. So I think that was it was a hell of a time. We had a great time. None of us, I think Mike actually got top 80 and made like his money back or something.
Wow.
But yeah, so I think that was a good experience just because it gave me a good idea as to what it would take to travel to national level tournaments after that. And I've done that before. I've drove to some Texas ones. I've even flown where you have to coordinate with a kayak shop and get a rental and then ship your gear or just pack it as a carry-on or luggage. But it's not easy. It's not easy. And I don't do a lot of them nowadays. I think the last one we did was the Bassmaster Kayak Championship out your way.
Yep. We met after I think the second. No.
Yeah.
Wherever we met.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
But no, so that was just like a lucky situation in that we got to fly. We had Sierra Nevada, who's a good supporter of what we all do. We have a good buddy that works there. They shipped our kayaks out in a beer truck, which was awesome.
That was a good video. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, hell of a time. But it is tough, like coming out from California, to these events out on the East Coast, out in Central, wherever. There's just not a lot of opportunity, unless you really make the drive. And I'll do a couple a year. It's a ton of work, but I enjoy them. I enjoy getting out there and fishing new places and these big trails. So yeah, I don't know what I'll do next year. I didn't qualify for the Bassmaster Championship, unfortunately, because I think it's at Chickamauga, right?
I think so. I didn't
Yeah.
qualify, so I forgot about it.
Yeah, we're losers.
We are.
Yeah, but no, I would have gone to that, but
Yeah.
they're fun. It does require quite a bit of planning, and you need some help, of course, whether it's transporting kayaks or getting a kayak rental or whatnot. But they're fun once you get out there and get to a new place. I always enjoy that.
Yeah. So in 2019, it sounds like you hit your 10K on your YouTube, and that was a big moment for you. Going back a little bit.
Yeah.
When did it hit that projection point?
Man.
That's not a word. I don't know. You know.
No, I know what you're saying.
When did it take off? Because that was 3 years ago, man. And at this point in time, there's a lot of people that know who you are. And I mean, because I'm watching you at this point in time. Matter of fact, I think I found you when I got my damn kayak in 2015 or 16. So,
Nice.
like, but that was only 3 years ago. It wasn't that long ago. You had to have that hockey stick takeoff.
Yeah, there was so I guess there was a couple, like whenever you get a viral video on YouTube, and I say viral meaning like a couple 100,000 views or whatever.
Relative to what viral is relative to what you want it to be.
Right. So anytime that happens, you'll get a little bump in subscribers. You might get a couple thousand at a time, or couple thousand in a week more so. But that has never really happened to me. It's maybe twice it's happened. I've had 2 videos that did really good randomly, not even videos I'm particularly in love with.
So it goes.
So that kind of helped the subscriber base. But other than that, dude, it's always been, even since like day one back in like 2013, like everything, if I look at my analytics, everything as far as like growth and subscribers, it's just been like steady, maybe like a little bump there, but it's just been steady. Everything is steady. I don't know why. I have some ideas. I think it's consistency. I think that's one of the biggest things that I've always done with YouTube is I've always posted. As you may have seen, I post even some of my worst days out on the water, skunk days, like terrible, can't, catch a cold. And maybe that's, that obviously allows me to keep consistency, but, I don't have enough time either to edit out a day. Like I can't just be like, oh, I went fishing today. And then
that day's gone. That shit don't
it's
work.
going up no matter what. But also I kind of like that too. Cause like, again, this is one of the things I like about YouTube is like, it's like my personal fishing log, I can always reflect on, previous trips or times a year. And it's fun for me to like kind of review that stuff when I want to, maybe go out to the Delta in February. I can go back to whenever and look at it. But everything's been really consistent growth. It's never, I personally, I don't think I have a huge channel, like relatively speaking to, fishing or YouTube in general, of course, but like, I don't know. It's just, I think I've got a really good community around my channel. And I think kind of like what you said before, like it's relatable. Like I'm not the best fisherman in the world and I continue to try to learn. So I think a lot of people can kind of relate to, my experiences, so to speak. So yeah.
And that's what but people will post in your YouTube comments or Instagram or, your social media. I see these comments and I don't know if you read them anymore, but I see these. And one of the things that you will see people post a bunch about is I'll watch a Greg Blanchard YouTube video of him fishing for 20 minutes and him not even catch a fish. And I watch the whole thing. Like those comments, you see those comments, and then people will sub-comment below those. Me too, me too, me too. There's not a lot of people that have that effect on their viewers that not only will they watch it, but then they'll come in here and say, I just watched 25-minute video of Greg fishing, didn't catch a damn fish or caught one fish. I watched every second of it. I mean,
oh God,
you see that. I'm taking it to a point here in how have you taken your editing and your storytelling and your filming? How have you built upon that? Like, what have been some things that have made you like, oh, I need to do this, or let me try this? Because you can see a progression in your videos and what you do. Is your storytelling just part of who you are and it's innate, or is this something that you've worked on and dived into?
I think it's something I've worked on over the years. I mean, if you go back to just go back 2 years and watch a video. I mean, I'm sure there's some crazy like EDM music or something with hook set montage. Maybe it's longer than that, but that might be way back then with the EDM hook DJ Khaled montage, stuff like that. No, I think it's just been a natural evolution in a combination of viewer response and feedback for sure. Like, I think that's one of the best things about YouTube is like the comments and like getting feedback and what people like, and then just kind of improving with editing and just dialing in the craft a little bit more. I think I've always been pretty good at doing, this sounds pretty, simple, but like an intro and an outro, tell them what's up at the beginning, tell them how everything went at the end. I think those are important things. And sometimes, maybe people, had a bad day, they don't feel like talking, and they just, close the video out and it's over with. But I think that's something I've always done. And it's become, I don't want to say second nature, but now when I'm out there, I kind of already know what the video is going to be or how it's going to be edited or shaped. I've done it so many times now. It's been almost 10 years of doing it, and I like the process, but I also like improving with editing. Like I think just about a year ago, I finally got like Final Cut. I was still working on a laptop with iMovie.
We were good. Yeah, that was one of the things when we first started talking about the editing, bringing it up, because when I got a GoPro and I wanted to start doing it, I was like, how does Greg edit his shit? Because obviously it's good. And I found the video where you talked about you said something about iMovie. I'm like, damn, he's using just regular ass old iMovie shit. Damn, okay, I don't pay for nothing. And then at some point you made a video and talked about, going to whatever you just said you're using.
Final Cut. Yeah. And I mean, it's I don't want to pretend like I'm some master editor, because I'm not. I've just kind of gotten better at the process by doing it so many times. But dude, my equipment's real simple, man. I'm like GoPros and my phone. Like I don't have anything else. I had a drone, but I actually somebody didn't like your shit.
No. But Greg Blanchard, let me call the FCC on his ass.
Yeah, dude. And I'm glad that I'm pretty sure the guy that emailed me to report the violation to me from the FAA,
I said FCC.
Well, no, I know what you meant. But I'm pretty sure he watched the channel, because he gave me a break. Like no joke, he gave me a break. He could have wrote me a fat ass ticket, and it would have been a fat one. It would have been a big old ticket. But he didn't, and he gave me a warning. And so I had a drone, but you have to have a Part 107 small craft pilot's license or something to fly a drone if you're using it for commercial use. So if you make any money on a drone, you have to have a license. So
there's been earlier this year, I think was a big point in this coming up, where that was a big thing in the fishing community about using drones and YouTube videos and the size of the drones and all that. So that was good. I remember you talking about that a couple times through your YouTube or podcast or something I listened to. You talk about somebody narked on you.
I mean, the thing is, like, if it's the law, it's the law. So I can't really be too pissed, because it's just true. It's just like one of those things where it's like everybody's doing it, and only 1% of the people are getting caught.
There you go.
So I am planning on getting that license. And the thing is, you have to go to like an airport or some place
I know.
take your test.
It's not just the one that you take online. You have to go.
I can't just pay like $69.99 and then get your license. You got to like study and like go take a test with. It's awesome. Damn it! Got to take tests again. I'll get it. I'll probably get it this winter, and then the drone will come back into play. But I mean, it's cool, extra content, B-roll, whatever you want to call it. But I've been fine without it. But no, I'm just saying, like, my equipment's simple, man. Phone, GoPros. Final Cut was an upgrade. Again, I was doing everything before that just on a laptop and an iMovie and an external hard drive. And I will say this too. I think I think there is something to, I don't even know how to phrase this, more amateurish like content, not like these highly produced videos.
Raw content.
Yes. Yeah. I think, I mean, you see guys out there with amazing videos, amazing editing and B-roll, and just the music is just on point. And it does okay, but you would assume it would be like, oh my God, that's like going to go viral, or that's just amazing. And it just doesn't. And I don't know. I think that's just kind of how the social media game, especially YouTube, has changed. There's a lot of, just a lot of accounts out there that they've built an audience through what they've been since day one. And that's really kind of what I've been, just like, it's not the best content as far as editing goes. It's not the worst, but you kind of get a more personalized experience, so to speak.
So to me, and I say this a lot on this podcast, when it comes to YouTube, people want to, in the fishing side, people want to see you catch big fish, or they want to see you in pain. I mean, those two things, if you have a video with one of those or both of those two things in there, those are going to do well. On the other side of that, and this goes again, what I've said before about your content and what you do is you take us on that journey. We feel like we're with you. You do a good job talking about fishing a lure, a spot, why. You throw in the educational side of it. It's very relatable. And you've said this numerous times. You can go find anything on YouTube. You can go find how to do anything on YouTube. How many people are coming to YouTube to learn how to fish, to learn how to kayak fish, to look at a technique or something like that? And so when they find somebody that they feel like is like them, who is learning and who is telling them how to do something, it's that relatability. And it's that trust that they build. Majority of your people never meet you, but they are invested in the content you put out there because they have some kind of connection, virtual connection to you with how you talk and teach and all that.
No, as far as like information, like pure fishing information, I don't know how many people are coming to me for that. Maybe like guys just getting into kayak fishing or looking at tournaments. But I think, you've got so many channels out there like, Tactical Bassin and, Fluke Master. There's so many channels out there already that if you're looking for a swim bait video or a bladed jig video or whatever technique, you type in their name and then the technique. I think that's probably where a lot of people are finding their information. But that's a good question. I don't know exactly how many people are actually coming to me to learn about fishing.
I will tell you more than you think, because
you think so?
Yeah, because so Tactical Bassin, let's just use them, probably one of the most well-known out there for techniques and lures. Mm-hmm. They're going to sit you down. They're going to have 5-8 lures out there, seasonal lures with the rods and reels, all this and stuff. And then they'll have small clips of them out there fishing, always catching fish, right? Mm-hmm. Then you put a 20-minute video out there on the Delta, fishing a frog, punching, throwing a chatterbait, and you're telling us why, where, what color. You say all the same things they're saying, but we are fishing with you, casting, not catching anything, why we threw here. So again, somebody can feel like that they can relate that. They can go, oh shit, I can go out there to my backyard pond in my kayak and I can throw this punching rig into this grass the way you did it. Again, it's different educational, right? They're sitting you down, they're teaching you a fucking class, right? They're the college. They're the college, a 4-year college. You are the technical college, the hands-on. You're the technical college of the hands-on, take you out there and show you what the fuck's going on, and this is what we're going to do. Yeah. So, again, I think there's more people coming to you from hearing you talk just now, coming for the educational side. Not that you're sitting down and doing these technique videos, but because you're doing them as you fish.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And, I mean, I'll just say this. I could never do what they do because, I need to fish for my own reasons, my personal well-being. I need to fish. I could not just like do a video of me sitting and talking about baits. Like I need to fish. It's just something I have to do because I love it so much. But maybe an idea that I've had maybe for, audience retention or people coming back to my videos is I think maybe it's almost like, imagine a world where you're going out fishing. Every time you go fishing, you slam them. You catch a 10-pounder, an 8-pounder. I hate to say this, but I think eventually that would get old. Like if that's just what happened every time you went fishing and you were just, and so my point is, I think like it's very similar in content that I have is it's not giant fish every video. It's not like amazing fishing every video. Sometimes it's a grind, sometimes it's okay, but sometimes when I do have a good day, it's rewarding and it's special and it's like you were saying, more relatable. And again, I found a really weird way of being able to fish and showing people, but I think it's something that people can make a connection with, and those bigger moments when they happen, it's kind of like this built up moment. It's all this struggle, all this time on the water, which everybody knows about. Nobody just goes out and cracks them. It's something like that makes those special moments even more special. And then as far as like education and learning, I think that's more of an educational moment because you see all that hard work, all that time on the water to lead up to a good day, a moment where you started catching them, and people can kind of see how that is a little bit more rewarding in a sense. I mean, again, there's people out there that will always go to, those how-to videos, and which is fine because they're great videos. They're extremely informative, and there's way more knowledge that they have than I do. But again, I think it is something that, in a weird way, maybe it's subconscious for people. Just they see, if they continue to watch the videos, they're like, wow, this is, it's not always just jack and giants all the time. And when you finally catch a good one or do good in a tournament, they feel kind of that emotion for you in a way, if that makes any sense.
It does. And so I'll relate it to this. It's like when you have that buddy with a bass boat that you think is the greatest angler ever, that's good angler, whatever you want to say, but he takes you out fishing. And you're in the back of the boat and you're fishing, you're talking, you're asking questions, he's saying what he's doing, and you're out there fishing all day and you catch 2 fish. Or you reckon you catch 30 fish. You're out there on the boat with them doing it. Again, your videos allow the viewer to feel like they're in a kayak beside you, or in a bass boat, in the back of your bass boat fishing. That's the whole thing. There's not a lot of people that put out content that is that authentic and relatable. And so you do a good job at that. And that also goes into, so we have a lot of folks on here that we've had people on here that are big content creators of bigger channels. And then we have folks on here that have 100 or 1,000 Instagram followers and, 200 YouTube, but they put out good content. And the thing that we've learned through doing this podcast is it comes down to being consistent. As you've said numerous times since you started, being consistent. There's the grind in there to put out the content, but you have to continue to do it. And you got to figure out what it is that you want. But everybody sees you now, and I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of subscribers you have now, 120 or whatever it is.
Not that. I think it's just like 120 maybe. It's not, again, I don't have the biggest channel in the world, but I have a really good community around it. So
but you've been building that for coming up on 10 years now. And but people see your channel and they're like, well, shit, I can do this, and they think they're gonna have 100,000 subscribers in 6 months.
It's tough, man.
Yeah,
it's tough. Like I said, like when I started watching YouTube was when I started kayak fishing and researching and just watching fishing in general. But I remember those days where like all your Guggen guys were just getting started. I watched all of them. I watched because they were the only ones you could find on YouTube. If anyone watched YouTube back in 2010 to 2013, that you watched the Guggens. That was just what you watched because that was what was available. And I'm not saying I'm one of them. I'm not, obviously. But again, I started early too. So I think that helped me in a big way. I started the channel in 2013. or somewhere around there. But yeah, I've been doing it for a long time, and I think a lot of people nowadays, like you said, they think, they can get into it and it's just going to take off like within a year, maybe even less than that. But it's just not how it is. It takes a long time, and it's just so saturated now too. Like,
oh god,
it's tough. And I mean, I think I've had the right amount of luck, hard work, right place, right time, right fishing. Just a lot of factors that came into play. And I mean, if I were to do it today from scratch, I can say even now, like, it'd be tough for me to break in. You just have to be dedicated.
You got to have the luck, got to have the right place at the right time, and got to have good content. And you can have all three of those things, but if you don't continue to put the shit out there, none of those three things fucking matter if you quit. And that's where we see it. I listen to a lot of podcasts because I drive. I'm driving all week, so I listen to a lot of podcasts. That's my content comes in these AirPods audio, and I get invested in a podcast, and all of a sudden I see, instead of every week, it's every 2 weeks, and then they skip a month, and it's a month, and then it's all. I'm like, God damn! If they would have just fucking kept going, it's there. If they would have kept going. But you see that you've said it so many times, and we're going to hit that. We're going to knock that nail. We're going to countersink that nail. Consistency. Put the shit out there. Your shittiest videos, put them out there. And if you don't catch a fish, highlight your rod's getting tangled up behind you, or you getting a backlash, or just the everyday shit that somebody that's going out there fishing probably has a lot of. A newer angler that's going to watch that video because, well, damn, Greg Blanchard, he does backlash. Look at this.
A lot.
In the boat. I mean, So it's interesting to see the people who have been successful, and since being able to sit across from a lot of these folks and learn how they've been successful. It honestly, the number one thing that comes out is just being consistent and grinding, and just putting the shit out there. Just put it out there.
Yeah, totally. And it makes perfect sense. And it is tough though. Like I do see the side where like people put out consistent content. It's been weeks, it's been months, it's been a year, and they're just not where they want to be. And this is all extra work. They have full-time jobs, they have families, they have kids, whatnot. And I think probably one of my advantages is I don't have a wife and kids. Like, I'm a single dude, so I can basically have a lot more time than someone that has a family. And you grind at something for a year and you don't see any return. I mean, it's hard to keep going. I mean, you have to really be motivated, or you have to see some kind of return to keep going, because it's essentially just working for free at that point. So I can see why it's so tough for some people to continue on with things that just aren't growing as fast as they want to.
Yeah, Alex and I talk about this quite a bit on the podcast with all the guests. Is if we had one person that listened to this podcast, we would still put out a podcast a week. For us, and now, so Alex doesn't tournament fish at all. He's a go have fun fish angler. I fucking hate fun fishing. Like, I'm out there either working on something or I'm I like the competitive side. I like tournament fishing. That's why the hell I want to fish. That's why I got in a kayak, because I couldn't afford a boat, and most of the good clubs around here wouldn't allow non-boaters.
Nice.
So that's why I got in a kayak. But we enjoy this because of the connections we've been able to make and the people that we've been able to sit down and talk to and the stories we've heard. We love recording this podcast and putting it out there. Yeah. We don't make no money. I mean, we have plans maybe to in the future, but also we've been doing this in this episode. What the fuck was that? Something just busted. I hope my fridge didn't die. But for us, we enjoy it. It's fun. We've gotten to meet people. We learn stuff. Like, all these things have kept us going, regardless of who listens. Now, we have a great community ourselves, and we have people that listen and engage. But I mean, for us, we put out an episode a week because we enjoy it. And if there were two people that enjoyed it, we continued to put podcast out. And that's just what we do. And all the folks that we've had on here that have had success through the social media side that's the one thing. If there was one thing we had to take out of it, it was just the consistency. That's it. That's the one word. That's the one thing that everybody always says. If you do it once a month, fucking do it once a month. If you do it once a week, do it once a week. Whatever you choose. You can always add more. Mm-hmm. But when you start tapering off, people will let you, if you start a podcast, people will let you get 10, 15, 20 episodes in before they start listening, because they don't want to invest their time listening to an hour podcast for it to end on episode 6.
Right. Yeah.
So, it just comes down to that. Your content is likable, it's relatable, it's authentic, it's all the buzzwords of what it is, but because cliches are cliches because they're true. But your content is that's why when you look into your comments, I watched the whole fucking video, 15 minutes of Greg Blanchard not catching a fucking fish. I watched it.
I don't know if I should be proud of that or not, but
no, you should be proud of it. Most people are clicking off on that, well, the other, you have you have 15 minutes of people casting, cast after cast ones cuts, but to some fishing techniques real quick, because again, people watch your channel. There's techniques that you like to do. There are techniques that you do because circumstance calls for. What is your favorite lure technique? What do you want we're going fishing tomorrow? And now I know this could be dependent on grass, no grass, structure, whatever, doesn't matter. But regardless, you can only take one lure. What the hell are you going out there with?
Frog. It has to be a frog. Yeah.
I figured that it would be.
Yeah.
So you get a little glimmer in your eye.
Oh yeah, dude.
When you start throwing the frog and you get a bite, there's a glimmer in your eye.
I'm happy to say that I've upgraded my 2-piece medium rod. I've upgraded a bit, but man, you can't beat a frog. The funny thing is, I was out on the Delta 2 days ago, and it was tough as hell, like super tough. I caught a couple on a jerkbait on the paws, and they were dinks. But then I started pitching a Senko. Actually, the video come out, but I actually got on the phone with Obity, and then just so happened to be like, "Hey, I'm struggling today. What would you throw?" And he told me 5-inch Senko wacky style, and I started throwing that, and I started catching fish, and I started loving catching fish on that technique. It was just a lot of fun. You're pitching it to the toolies, and you just feel that line get tight, and you'd set the back on them. I mean, I love the frog would be number one, but I don't know. I love catching them on different techniques, whether it's like throwing a deep finesse football jig and feeling that tick, or chatterbaits or crankbaits. It's all fun to like catch fish, no matter what the technique. I can't really even think of a technique that I don't like catching fish on. As weird as that sounds.
Well, no, hell no. I like fish too. Well, look, we had a question. Our buddy Ramon from Ramon Outdoors, good friend. God dang it, I had this damn question queued up in here to ask it. Let me try to hold on. Let me try to. There we go. What is your number one confidence bait and why? Confidence bait and why?
Confidence bait and why? Oh man. It depends on where I'm fishing. But dude, and I know if I need to get a bite, I think, well, I say this and it's kind of changed. Overall, I would say a drop shot. If I need to get a bite, if I'm looking to get that fifth fish, I mean, again, this can all change depending on the body of water, the time of year we're fishing, drop shot's always been like the one where you can usually get bit. And again, it could be weedless, it could be, open style, but drop shot's always been like the one bait that you always have to have it, like just in case. So
I spent all last year saying, fuck that drop shot. I ain't throwing no drop shot. I went and bought this year, March or April, maybe I went and bought a rod, a reel, strictly for a drop shot. That is the only thing that's on it. Only thing. And it's probably the one rod that I have never left since I got it. I mean, that shit is on there all the time. All the time now.
Yeah, it just catches fish. It's silly, and
you can put anything on it. You can wacky rig a turd. You can wacky rig a fluko. You can put a damn spook or fluke on there. I mean, you can literally put anything. The damn gilly.
Yeah, you can. The possibilities are endless. But that would probably be my one technique. Like in a pinch, if you need to get a bite and your life's on the line, you need there's fish in front of you. What are you going to throw to get them to bite? It's probably going to be a drop shot. I'd love to say, oh, I throw a frog there, but you just drop shot will get bit more often than not. But it's funny, like nowadays when you get more technique specific, like just kind of referring back to the other day I had on the Delta, it was such a weird bite, and we can get into this, but the Delta, I love the Delta, and I know I've hyped it up about the frog fishing, but it is also easily one of the hardest places I've ever fished, as well as one of the best places. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. You talked about how fucking weird that place can be.
It can be super tough especially in the coming months, coming up in December, January, it's just going to shut down. Unless you're going for striper, forget about the bass, unless you've got like some secret honey hole where they stack up. I don't have one, but it's so tricky because it's just, it's tidal, first of all. So there's a tide every day, and the water levels fluctuate. And the fish are just so, I don't want to say there's so many places on the Delta for them to hide, whether it's like hyacinth or tules or way back under docks. You might have a grass patch that's like 60 yards out, and they might be way back in like 50 yards that you can't even get to them. It's just, I think that's why it's so healthy too, is because I think a lot of the healthiest fisheries you see in the country are so rich with habitat, and those fish can just kind of hide and tuck away. Like it's why they flourish. People can't just go jacking them every day.
Hey, so tell me about the Delta in like depth or structure fishing. Is it pretty much all grass line fishing, or are there rocky points? Is there any true structure fishing out there? How deep is it? I see the videos and this and that, but I can't conceptualize it because I haven't been there. But is it just grass line fishing, or are there structure where you can go throw a DD-22 on a point and deep crank? What does it look like overall?
Yeah, I've actually heard that's something I've never done on the Delta, is throwing deep diving cranks, but I've heard of guys doing it. So, it is a river system. It is tidal. It is three main rivers that basically join and form the Delta. One of them is the Sacramento, going all the way up to Sacramento. But it's mainly grass. It's man-made too. So a lot of the inland is man-made. Yeah, so they had to dig that out, and so essentially there's a lot of rocky banks. So they and you can crank that a little bit, but the grass does pretty much grow everywhere. They spray quite a bit out here, which is somewhat controversial, but it's also necessary, because if they didn't spray out here, this place would just be choked full of hyacinth. And
the only thing you ever got there is a damn not a push pole.
If that, it'd be insane how fast it grows out here. But it's mainly shallow water fishing, which is kind of what I like. You're not, in the main river channels, it'll get up to 40, 50 foot some places, but you're not out there fishing. Not that I know of. There could be guys on some secret crazy pattern out there that are catching all the 10-pounders that disappeared. But
you get some water temps below 50. That's where them fish gonna be.
Yeah, especially these coming months. Usually they're going to be out in the main channels, and it's just tough to find them. There are northerns out here, but a lot of those bigger fish, the Florida strain, they're super tough to catch in the cold weather. They're real finicky. But it is mainly grass fishing, and you could probably throw any technique out here. You just have to find the right area. And I in general, I would say that's why I like the Delta so much, because it's 5 foot or less. I like fishing 5 foot or less.
Yeah. You power fishing. You power fishing.
Yeah. You're power fishing. You're not. I mean, it's funny because the places I fish are like so different. Like I'll fish the Delta, and then I'll go to a place that has like 30-foot visibility, deep, clear reservoir. And I'll have to
those big ass deep.
It's crazy. Like I've like set up like 2 different sets of rods. Like these are my Delta rods and tackle boxes, and this is all for the Delta. And then if I go here, then this is all for that. It's like, damn, I wish I could just use the same stuff everywhere, but you just can't. It's just totally different.
All right, this brings up a point. I meant to ask this earlier and I forgot, and this is one of the questions I wanted to ask. Why the fuck is it so hard to fish at your fucking reservoirs? You remember you posted a video, you went to one reservoir and you had a drop of water in the fucking pool or something, and they denied you. I'm like, well, shit, I guess I got to go to this other place. And I mean, is it? And again, I'm seeing this through your video, a 20-minute snapshot of the life. But is it that difficult? And I see you getting out there in the morning times, and it's like the sun's halfway up, whereas here I'm out on the water before the sun gets up. Like, is it difficult and getting more difficult to fish these bodies of water where you are?
Yeah, it's tough out here overall. It's funny because like I go back to New York and I fish anywhere I want and it's free. Out here you're gonna have to pay. You gotta pay to fish. So those places where you're talking about where the water inspection, it's the East Bay reservoirs. And I will say this, Southern California is a lot more strict than up here, but they are strict up here at certain bodies of water. But East Bay reservoirs, I think there's a handful of them. And they do mussel inspections. Some a lot more strict than the others. It just depends on your inspector for the day. A couple of them are pretty notorious for being sticklers. But yeah, they're inspecting. They want to prevent the spread of quagga mussels. And, you have to fill out inspection form. You have to get it officially inspected. And if there's any standing water inside your kayak, I mean, I've heard of guys even pulling their scupper plugs out and having a little water come from the scupper and get denied. It's no go. You're done. You're not getting in. And you get like I think it's like a 2-week ban or something like that from any East Bay reservoir.
They ban you.
Yeah, you're in the system. And not to mention that, but it's expensive to fish out here. It's at least anywhere on the Delta is minimum $10 to launch. There's some places that are 20, and some of these reservoirs are pushing 25 to 30 just to launch a kayak. So
I don't mind paying, and I get that, and I understand the muscle aspect and the I understand all that, but damn it, man. Again, I say that I understand that, but golly, it's got to be frustrating to get up at 3:00 in the morning and drive and get there at 6:30 and then go, oh man, there's some residue there. Well, I just drove 3 hours from 6,000 feet elevation to 4,000. That's just condensation from me driving.
I know. That only is. Luckily, it's only happened once, and I did make a video of it.
Made a video,
yeah. I got the one lady there that's pretty strict, but I'll just be fair in the situation. I did have water inside my kayak. It wasn't just mildew or moisture. I did have a little bit, so I can't falter there. But again, I've heard of some stories, some guys getting denied for like droplets of water, and it's just one of those things. You gotta do your homework to fish some of these places. But that's the funny thing too, is these places, though they are tough to get into relative inspection wise, and then they cost a pretty penny. Dude, some of these East Bay reservoirs where they stock trout, there are teeners in here, like teeners. And it's one of those, these places I cannot figure out. I know what I need to do. I just don't really have the time. And it's, big swim baits. Yeah. There's just giants, and they're so pressured that these fish get smart, and they're hard to catch. But I think if I'm ever going to catch a double digit, it's probably going to be one of these places where you have the quagga mussel inspection, and they're highly pressured, and they stock trout, and maybe it'll be next month. I don't know. We'll see. I might go to one. I'll be scared. I'll have to have a bone dry kayak I'll be with a blow dryer outside the
pull over a couple miles before the ramp, and out there plug it in and run it. Well, but that's the thing is when I found Nick's podcast and started listening to it, and he's like he's the voice of West Coast anglers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he knows everybody, especially in the swim bait world, and having those swim bait guys go on there and to hear the stories about them catching not only largemouth or in the other bass species, spotted bass and shit that they catch out there, but the stripers that those guys catch.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, just the class of fish that they catch out there is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
What's out there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's, I mean, there's no doubt there's giant fish and world-class fish out here. It's just, they're harder to catch, man. Like, and again, like I'll be
dealing with 30 foot of visibility.
Dude, it's crazy. It's something even the Delta at times. The Delta, everyone thinks the Delta is all dirty and stuff, and it is at certain times of year. But like this time of year, like the Delta is like crystal clear.
No shit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess it makes sense. The places that have a lot of grass have great filtration for their water. So
exactly.
It could settle out real quick there.
Yeah, I've been in the Delta before, and I've seen down to probably 25, 30 foot before.
Good Lord.
It's insane. Yeah.
Does the grass grow that deep?
It'll grow, but it won't it won't top off at that point. It'll
right. But it'll be down there. So it's deep enough that it would foul up any treble hook crankbait that you threw down there.
Yeah, but like I said, I've heard of guys throwing deep dive. The funny thing is the Delta is such an interesting fishery because there's such a I don't know how to phrase it, but there is such a local history and community around the Delta. Like it's very like people that have fished the Delta just fish the Delta. Like they're just Delta fishermen, and they fished it for years and years and years. They don't bother with any of the lakes out here. And there are little tricks and tips and different nuances in the Delta that they can catch fish. And I like go back deep diving crankbaits. I've heard that is a thing. It's again, that's why it's so tough sometimes, is because it's so specific. Like on a certain day, they might only be eating a certain bait, and you just have to. It's timing, it's presentation, it's how the tide sets up, because the fish will follow that tide and they'll move. But it's also really rewarding when you catch fish too, because like you're like, damn,
you got the shit dialed in. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain times of year where it's the bite's open, but honestly, I'd say more often than not, you gotta work for it. Like I think the other day when I was talking about the other day fishing, I think I launched at like 8 o'clock, and by 1 o'clock I only had 3 bites, and only one of them was 12 inches. It's like, yeah, it was terrible. And then after 1 o'clock, in a 2-hour window, the tide turned and water started moving, and I started catching fish on a Senko and caught a limit real quick. Nothing huge, but it's interesting. It's a great place, but it's also really tough too. So
yeah. But it sounds like a place where you get a lot of different presentations that you're working on throughout the day to see that's going to work. Tell me this. So we hear a lot about the Delta. I'm from the Carolinas, man. I don't know a fucking thing about the fisheries out there except for what I hear.
Yeah.
Is the mecca of California fishing Clear Lake or the Delta or some other lake?
Ooh, man, that is a great question. I would say it was Clear Lake, but this past year, Clear Lake has sucked so bad. Like it has been so tough at Clear Lake. I think Clear Lake has dropped off.
Well, let's think about the biology of lakes. They all have their ebb and flows.
Mm-hmm.
And so a good example, right? So you said it used to be Clear Lake, and the past 6 or 7 years, that's been a huge place. Obviously, that's where tactical bassing was until they couldn't fish during the vid, and so they had to hightail it out. But for us right now, Jordan Lake is at its peak.
Really?
And when lakes get at their peak, there's, on average, 3 to 5 years. That's not average, that's a range. So a range of 3 to 5 years where they're at a peak, and they start tapering off, and then they'll go through a lull, and the lull depends on all this other biological shit. But anyway, so Jordan Lake is at a peak right now. I mean, come late winter, they'll start catching 35-pound bags out here. Wow. It won't be everybody. It's not everybody, but the people that know will come out here and catch 35-pound bags. And, I mean, they will wear their ass out. And you can, again, right now, I know of 3 tournaments at Jordan in the last 4 weeks that they had the winning bags were 25 to 28 pounds.
Oh, my God. So is that so that's interesting. I completely agree with you. I think 3 to 5 years sounds really good, or perfect, as far as peaks go, because they just don't last forever. Whether it's pressure, the fishery changes, they eventually come down. But so why do you think that lake is at a peak right now?
I don't know. I mean, I got here in 2020. This lake's been on. I mean, so 4 years ago was the first time. 5 years ago now was the first time MLF came here. Mm-hmm. And they came here because at that point in time was when that 40-pound bag came out of Sharon Harris. Sharon Harris is a super small lake. The bitch is only like 7,000 acres, and there's big chunks of it that are even cut off that you can't fish. But at that point in time, this lake had grass lines out to 10 foot. They killed the grass. And so the fish are still there, but they're harder to catch because they're 100% structure related, and there's no grass line. So that grass line will bring fish closer to the bank. As anglers, we have a site, we have something to throw at and fish at. The fish are going to be shallower more because they have cover there. Well, now they don't have that cover, so them bitches going to be out there deeper, and we don't have anything to throw at. Now, technology helps, but most people are idiots with technology. Different story. But I don't know. So our lakes here, Jordan and Falls, are flood control lakes. That's the only reason they're there is flood control. And so you get all this runoff from the cities and towns around here. And I think with Jordan Lake specifically, you get there's a lot of construction here. So you're getting a lot of nutrients coming into the lake when it rains. It's a good thing and a bad thing. We're getting the nutrients in, which replenishes the habitat for, the microorganisms to eat, and then everything, all whatever the fuck they call it, where the little things eat the little big blah, blah, blah. So anyway, You're getting all this in there right now. But the other bad part about it is it's silting in that lake a lot because of construction with all the stuff coming in. So you kind of got to think. This coincides with the boom over the last 10 years of construction in the Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill, this area. It coincides with the construction. And you just have a lot of nutrients that is making it down into the tributaries that's coming into the lake. So it's helping those fish grow.
And I bet you that those places never have a low water, or they don't drop significantly?
No, they do. So Falls in Jordan, I don't fish Falls much. It's farther away from me, and I got Jordan and Harris right here. But Jordan's down probably about 3 feet right now. Me guessing around 3 feet. Okay. No, there's no huge drawdowns like they have at Kerr Lake, Bugs Island. But it's drawn down in the winter for flood control because our rainy season's in the winter. So you do get some of that. You do get some of that spring growth, that green grass on the bank that's not flooded. But in the springtime, when we get those spring rains, that shit'll flood like hell, and it'll be up in the bushes. Matter of fact, 4 years ago, the first time MLF came here, that's what they were fishing in, and that's when they absolutely fucking wrecked them at Jordan.
Okay, so they're flipping up shallow.
Oh man, it was in the water willows, and it was they were just tearing their ass up shallow. I mean, it's pre-spawn anyway. It's muddy water. It's in the bushes, so you can get right on them and just drop that shit in there. But there is a little drawdown.
Yeah.
I worked on a fish hatchery. I've been outdoors my whole life. I think a lot of what we see with Jordan right now with where it is has to do with the construction, with a lot more nutrients coming into the tributaries that are making it into the lake. And so you just have that nutrient level because there's grass there, but it's not like the Delta grass. Like it's little, looks like rice paddies type deal.
Yeah.
But you're not out there, fishing in 10 foot of water in a grass field. That shit ain't happening. It's a structure lake. It's roads. I call it the 3 R's of Jordan. In the spring and fall, you got the 3 R's of Jordan: roads, railroads, and riprap. And that's where you're gonna catch your fish. But it's just it's just nutrient rich right now.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. And I was kind of what I think. So it's been super tough out here, but I think the biggest reason has been the water, the lack of water. These lakes dropping 80 to 100.
It's scary.
It's crazy, but I don't really understand.
In your area, and I didn't mean to interrupt, but in your area, are you seeing the water levels drop in your area the same they are down in the southern part of the state in Arizona and New Mexico and all those places?
Not that drastic. I know what you're talking about down at like Lake Mead and stuff like that.
Lake Mead's about to fucking disappear.
Yeah, there's no Lake Mead anymore. No, but it's pretty bad. A lot of these lakes are like 40-50% capacity. I mean, there's swings of like 80 to 100 foot on the places that I fish. But what's crazy is like even Clear Lake's not that drastic, but Clear Lake has dropped to the point where almost every ramp on Clear Lake isn't usable. Like they've had to shut it down.
Shit.
Yeah, I think they actually did some construction on one ramp to like extend it out for boats. Because that's a big thing for Clear Lake is just like their commerce, like just getting people to fish there. Like it helps local businesses, and without tournaments, the tournaments were canceled this fall. A lot of them, they don't have any usable ramps. But what I was getting at was like, since all this water has dropped, it seems like these fish out here, with the exception of the Delta, because that's tidal, it's not affected. But these other lakes and reservoirs, man, the fish have just seem to have pushed offshore, like you were saying. Like they just move. They're out deeper. They're harder to catch. Like you need the live scope. You need some kind of forward-facing sonar to find these fish. And I don't have that, so for me, it's been like super tough. And it's interesting. It's like, you think logically, all right, well, a lake has less water in it. There's less places for the fish to hide. Why are they harder to catch? And it's just because they, even though the water's lower, it's still like 100 foot out in the middle of some of these places. And these fish just wolf pack and suspend and eat trout and don't ever come near the bank. And you're never in a million years going to put a bait in front of their face. And they're still there. It's not like those giants and teeners and 10-pounders disappeared. They're just out in the middle, and that's what makes it, at least out here, super tough to catch them. So,
well, here's the good news with low levels of water on lakes. Hopefully, in our lifetime, the water levels rise. Let me start off with that. Hopefully, shit turns around and motherfuckers start getting water back in them.
I hope so.
But what you'll have with these lakes when those water levels are low, you'll start to get more grass growth. You'll start to get more small woody growth. It starts to creep down into the banks. And so when that water level starts to rise, you've got a whole new little ecosystem on the banks that now has some kind of growth that hasn't been there ever or for years. And so pond management, for instance, you'll draw down ponds very low in the wintertime, and you slowly raise them in the spring. And what that does, that gives those early spring grasses that grow well in moist, damp environments, it'll sprout up. And as you raise that water level, you've got so many microorganisms and bugs and shit into that stuff that, you'll see that. And so these lakes, as they start to fill back up, they're going to have a lot more stuff, living shit in there growing, and that's going to make it good. And so what you'll see is some of these lakes, it'll take 10 years, but you'll see some of these lakes are going to come back up and they're going to have a fucking peak, and it's going to be balls to the wall for 3 to 5 years. And then it's going to start to taper off. It has to taper off at some point. How long that little lull is depends on all the environmental stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. A lot of those lakes that I was talking about that are low have a ton of grass. The banks have a ton of grass on them. It almost looks like you could frog and punch. I've done it. They're not in that grass right now. Not
Yep.
now, but I can see. I know exactly what you're saying. I hope they fill up again because I mean, there are California has big fish. They're just tough to catch, especially right now. And if some of these places fill back up, I mean, for example, Berryessa, I've done a couple of videos there recently. We had our last tournament there. Super tough, a lot of offshore fishing, a lot of electronics fishing. But that was one of the first places that I fished when I came here in 2018, 19. And the lake was really full. It was almost like, I think, 85, 90%. And one of the banks or one of the sides of the lake had all this flooded bush, all these bushes in the water, and the fish just lived there year round. And it was just stupid. It was so easy to catch them. It was quality fish. It was amazing. And now all those bushes are they're out of the water by like 100 yards. There's nothing in there except whatever. But yeah, I mean, I like what you're saying. I think if these fill up again, it could be some pretty epic fishing.
Yeah, they they have to fill back up with water. I mean, that's the difference in a man-controlled takedown and versus nature, because we can't control nature. Hey, one thing, last year you fished the ever-loving shit out of a black chatterbait. And now this year, I haven't watched as many videos. Just I've been busier, but you haven't fished that black chatterbait as much. Used to, it was like black chatterbait. Matter of fact, the last couple of videos that I remember watching, you fished a chatterbait. It was a white one or something. So, was that just circumstance, or is that just you getting locked on to what was working?
It's funny out here, man. Like, yeah, you're totally right. Black and blue chatterbait, Z-Man custom chatterbait with a little swim Senko. That's been back when we talked about Delaware. That's where I started throwing that exact combination. Z-Man custom chatterbait, just on Tackle Warehouse, black and blue, half ounce, little swim Senko trailer. That's been my go-to chatterbait and trailer forever. And it's always caught fish. And last year was the first time ever that chatterbait, that bladed jig, not just for me, but seemingly a lot of my buddies and everyone else on the Delta just did not work. And I mean, there's some theories out there. Some people say like the fishing pressure of that specific bait, the fish have gotten used to it, which may be true. I don't know if I believe that. But what was also funny was the spinner bait for me last year had more bites than the chatterbait, and it's weird. And that's again kind of giving the Delta some credit in being a little finicky thing. Is you think you can catch them on certain techniques, certain times of year, and it'll just change on you so fast. You can have all the confidence in the world. You can go punch a patch of Tules or punch a hyacinth and catch 30 pounds one day, and the next day it's not a bite. But that's been one of the interesting things lately for the Delta, not just for me, because that's essentially the only place I throw it, except maybe Clear Lake. But I didn't really get a chatterbait bite at Clear Lake. But yeah, the Delta it's not chatterbaity. I even threw it the other day when I was catching those Senko fish, and I still have it on deck, but I don't know. I don't know if other people like yourself or other people in the country have noticed it. I'm not sure if it's like a pressure thing, if fish are just getting so used to a billion chatterbaits going by their head and they're just not eating it, or it's just the fishery. It's interesting. I mean, I'm not giving up on it, but yeah, you're exactly right. The chatterbait bite for me, black and blue, has been nada this past year.
I have not been a big bladed jig, chatterbait, jackhammer, which doesn't matter, thrower. I love the square bill. That was the Spro Little John with the microchip bill. That's my favorite square bill. I'll throw it in 8 foot or less, even though it don't hit 8 foot. Those I can get it the way I throw it. I get it down to about 6, at least 6. But that's what I throw, and that's why I had a lot of success on. But this year, right now, specifically the last couple months, I have a jackhammer tied on. It's a green pumpkin with a razor shad. I can't remember, some kind of damn razor shad. And that's what I've been throwing because, I don't have the confidence in this and that. The days that I've been fishing like shit offshore or going up on the bank and throwing damn soft plastics and not get anything, I can take that chatterbait. And here recently, I've been able to go get a fish or two with it.
Really?
In ankle deep of water, middle of the day. I mean, it's just been one of those things. But again, this isn't somebody who throws it a lot anyway. I'm throwing it more right now. But I don't know, because I haven't fished a lot of it. I was square bill. I throw the square bill. That was what I like to throw, where you would throw that chatterbait. I would throw a square bill.
Yeah.
And so I haven't seen that, but I still know, at least in the kayak scene locally and at least nationally in this area, nationally in my region, there's still a lot of people winning money on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's still a player, because I mean, if you follow like Bass or FL or MLF actually, and you ever look at those articles, the winning baits or whatever, like the baits that done well, bladed jig's always up there. I think it really is just maybe more so the Delta. It's a great bait. I would say that plus the frog, maybe punch in third, but the bladed jig and the frog, hands down, have been the two baits that have caught my biggest fish. I mean, if you took my top 20 biggest bass ever, like those baits are just going to be, probably 15 of them. It catches big fish. It's just surprising it's not doing as well out here on the Delta that it has done before. But again, fisheries change, and again, the thing that was weird to me was the spinnerbait came back into play, and that's kind of like, I mean, I don't know if it's true, but it seems like almost like an old school lure. I think it's making a little bit of resurgence, but you don't see a lot of guys winning tournaments on spinnerbaits anymore, but they're biting it a lot better than the chatterbait out here. I'll tell you that.
I think it comes down to what they're foraging on. If there's a difference, like if you have a bad bluegill year, I know y'all got bluegill there. I don't know if you have shad or shit like that, but if the bluegill have a couple bad years and that forage is less and they're not feeding on that as much as they are something else, then that imitation bait might not do as well. Depending on the forage. So I don't know, man. This is, again, we talked about this earlier about always learning in fishing. I mean, people are up in arms about forward facing sonar. I love it. I think it's great. Nature will adjust, and these fish that we're catching right now that are suspended, that we never caught before, they'll adjust. I mean, it's going to be there. It's just how it happens. So we'll have to adjust, and before we know it, who knows what the hell kind of shit we're going to be throwing at them. But But I mean, when it comes down to lures and baits, for me, I'm pretty simple. I think 99% of the time, color doesn't matter. I think it's just being in the right place at the right time and fishing for the right fish. But then there's those few times where that little dip of chartreuse on the tail of that whatever makes a damn difference. I mean, but it's hard to figure that shit out, and there's only a small percentage of anglers that can figure, the three strands of yellow in this jig is going to catch me the winning fish this weekend versus 4 strands. Well, there's only a few people that can figure that shit out on a day in, day basis when it comes to catching fish.
Oh yeah, and that's one thing that I've kind of learned out here in California this past year, is how when the fishing gets tough, it is so bait specific. I remember we had one tournament where the pattern was like a freaking tiny ass underspin, like spinning gear. I'm I don't have that. I don't own any freaking 1/8 ounce underspins with a 1.5 or not even a 1-inch swim bait. And
Greg,
that was the deal.
Who the fuck figures that shit out? I'll tell you who figures it out. I'm going to answer my own fucking question. Some crappy angler out there. Some crappy angler is throwing some bullshit ass crappy lure, caught a bunch of bass and told his buddy, and his buddy's like, let me go throw this 2.5 inch on the underspin out there.
Yeah.
And he wrecks them because but crappy anglers, if you don't know how to catch bass and you can't catch them right now, if the bite's tough, go start talking to the crappy anglers, because them motherfuckers catch everything in the lake.
That's funny you say that.
Down here.
The one time I've actually gone crappie fishing, because like I actually had crappie stuff and like crappie, I don't even know, like it's like a Mr. Crappie from I caught a bunch of bass doing it too. I was like, what the hell? I'm like,
I got a kayak buddy out here, and he's talking about 3 weeks ago now. He's like, man, I caught 2 5-pound. He showed me a picture of a bunch of crappie he caught. Man, I'm gonna have fish fry tonight. I'm like, sweet. So I caught 2 5-pound bass on a crappie jig today. I'm like, where? He told me where. I'm like, I'm sitting here going, I had fished this fucking place like forever with everything I was supposed to be fishing with. Yeah. So I texted him back. He's way better an angler I am. He's a great angler. I was like, dude, what does this tell you? And he's like, he said something. I said, it's telling me to downsize. He's like, no, upsize. I'm like, oh, you just caught 2 5-pounders crappie fishing. What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah. We caught them on the other side. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. The crappie anglers, they catch everything. I mean, it talk to the crappie anglers if y'all having a hard time. They might put you in on some small ass shit. Yeah. So, Greg, I want to go back to New York. I think it was last year you fished a kayak tournament at Kayak.
Yeah.
And it was when they were on the perch bite, the perch jerkbait bite.
Yeah.
And it was so funny. You were catching 3 and 4 pounds like, well, yeah, I'm just throwing back 4-pounders. You remember that? You remember fishing?
Yeah. That's
we were sitting here catching fish at a tournament going,
oh, man.
Well, I'm just throwing back 4-pounders. I can't even weigh them. Holy shit.
That's one of those lakes I'm fearful that might be at its top. It might be going down at this point. We'll see. I fished it a little bit actually in the fall. It was kind of tough. We'll see. I don't know.
Did you and Bailey fish there when y'all fished a few weeks
ago?
No,
we fished Kayak. We fished another Finger Lake. I fished Kayak myself, and it was really tough. I fished it one day, and I only caught maybe a few keepers, and then I never went back. I know MLF had just been there, and they tore the fish up. I don't know if that affected them or not, but it was tough. And I heard from other people that Kayak, that lake you're talking about, has been really tough. All late summer, all fall. But yeah, that video you're talking about, that was a perch jerkbait bite. There was like a lot of perch forage in there, and it's just kind of that lake is literally 5 minutes from my mom's place where I stay when I go to New York, when I go home, and it's just so convenient. It's like 5 minutes drive down there, launch the kayak, and then literally like as soon as you launch, that's where you can catch fish. And I don't know if these fish are just like stupid because the lake's like so damn cold for like 5 months out of the year or what, but it's always refreshing to go to New York different times of year, but definitely in the spring because it's just easier to catch fish. It's fun. I mean, I'll just be honest. I like catching fish. I like swinging the rod, and you can do that all the time in New York in the spring, more often than not. And Kayak Lake has some great fish in it, and it's funny because Kayak Lake is great. There's some really good fish in there, but there are a lot of lakes out that way too that are sleepers. I'm not going to mention any, but I know I've heard that there are some lakes out there that are better, way better, as far as quality, and maybe not quantity, but quality. Like I think the one time I went out with Bailey, he caught that like 22 plus inch fish. I mean, that's an anomaly for New York. Like, it's
like
insane.
6 pounds, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, maybe in the winter that's like 7.5, 8, and it's they caught out of Kayak Lake that giant 8-9 pound smallmouth.
Like the week before MLF got there, they caught that 8 in the tournament.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I don't know if like the fisheries are just getting better or the fishermen are getting better, but there's clearly big fish in New York, and yeah, it's one of those special places, man. Like I can't wait. I'll probably go back 3 or 4 times next year. They just announced the Hobie BOS schedule, and they have Kayak Lake on the 24th and 25th of June, and I'm like, damn, guess I got to go to New York again. Like, I'm like,
are you coming to Santee next year for Hobie?
That would be a great place. That's one of my bucket list fisheries, actually, because I
you have been to Santee?
No, I've watched Bassmaster go to Santee, and it looks amazing. I know there's some mega bags that come out of there in the spring, and we'll see. Probably not, but I'd love
We'll
to.
talk about that later.
All right, yeah, hook me up.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Yeah. I'll tell you this about New York fishing, or just up north fishing, is we like to call it down here in the Carolinas, up north.
Yeah.
Look, in the fall time, they catching 30 damn pound bags of smallmouth.
Yeah.
I mean, like we caught 30-pound bags today in one fishing trip of smallmouth. That's insane. I mean, when I was growing up, all your professional fishing was in the South, right? I mean, every now and again they might venture up somewhere in the Missouri or somewhere like there, but it was all South. But holy shit, to get smallmouth like that? Oh, I mean, I have never experienced anything like that. I mean, is that fairly regular for that area that you're in New York too, being able to catch?
I know the Great Lakes, St. Lawrence, they're going to catch their fair share of 5 to 7s. Cayuga obviously has giant smallmouth in it with an 8.5 or whatever that was. For me, it's not common. I don't go catch like 5 to 8 pound smallmouth. I wish I did, but I do know some of those lakes have put out. You can see some of the local club tournaments because I'll follow. I'll do my research. Some of the club tournaments out there will catch in the spring like 7, 8 pounders smallmouth in the Finger Lakes. Some of the lakes right nearby me, so they're there. It's tricky though because I feel like the smallmouth are almost like in the spring when they move up shallow and they spawn and they get a little, they're easier to catch. But after that, they're just like, they just roam out in the middle. They just wolf pack bait, eat those giants, and you can't really target them as well. So I'll say this. I know next year, spring in New York, I'm going to definitely put in a smallie trip because I mean, I need that in my life. That sounds amazing.
Hey, I've got 2 more things, and we'll start off with the first one. Is kind of mentioned it earlier, forward-facing sonar technology. I know you use Ray Marine. You have a lot of videos where not in the Delta, but when you're in these other lakes, you're looking at fish on your down imaging and 2D and vertical fishing them with spoons and stuff. So I know you use it and you know how to use it. Is forward-facing something that you're looking to add to your repertoire coming up anytime soon?
Oh man, that is a good question. And what's funny is I'll look at my phone right now. I had a video. It was our last tournament video that we kind of talked about it a little bit with me and the buddies, Mike and Dutcher. And it was a hot topic. It was a hot topic, that video. Got a lot of comments on forward-facing sonar. And I decided to put a poll out on the YouTube community tab. I'm looking at it right now, and I just basically put a poll up saying if I should get forward-facing sonar or live scope next year, and got a lot of votes. I think almost 3,600 votes, and almost 80% of people said yes. So there's a lot of people that want me to add it, and just again, I did include in the poll that I wouldn't use it like all the time. It would be very situational. Like when fish are offshore and they're chasing bait and you need something like that to be competitive. Yeah, I would like to have it. So I think I will be adding it next year, or at least experimenting with it. I mean, I don't think I'll use it ever on the Delta or if I'm shallow water fishing, but I'd like to try it. And you said you have it, right?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm hoping maybe next year as well to have it. I upgraded my graph to, I went from a little Garmin to a Humminbird, and I got the 10-inch, and I got it because you don't need the black box. So their Mega Live can go straight to that. So I'm hoping to get it. Do you have a preference on a brand yet? Have you even looked that far into it? Or
I haven't. I haven't even honestly decided if I'm going to get it or not. I think I will, but
you're going to get it. We are. You're going to get it. Let's go ahead and we're going to put that cornerstone in the ground. You're gonna get it. We know that for damn
I'm gonna
sure.
at least get it. I'm gonna try it. That's why I did that poll, and 80% is a lot, but that's also 20% of people. There's some undecided voted, but
yeah,
that's I think people think that I'm gonna use it all the time, and I'm just gonna be staring at a graph the whole time. And
but it doesn't make sense. You don't even have a graph on sometimes when you are not Mr. Technology. You use it when there's a time and a place for it, but other times, I mean, you don't even have it or don't reference it. So
Exactly. So it'd be totally situational, especially like in this time of year, the fall, the fish do seem to suspend a little bit more and go offshore. And some of these tournaments we have in the fall, it's like you gotta have it. You're not just gonna go beat the bank.
Winter fishing.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, again, I go back to my crappie guys. In the wintertime, these crappie guys are pulling 8-9 pounders. I'm like, dude, where the fuck did you catch that? He's like, bitch was in like 38 foot of water suspended in 19. And I saw it and I dropped my crappie jig down on it. And he's reeling in a fucking 9 pounder on a crappie.
Oh my God.
He's on his trolling motor trying to follow it around so he don't lose it because he saw the bitch. He knows this big bag.
Yeah.
And I mean, wintertime fishing, man, that's Winzo, what's his name, catching all these damn big ass fish. God damn it, why can't I think of his name? Don't matter anyway. Winter fishing, live sonar, forward facing sonar, man, that's where that shit's at.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a few, even like when talking about when I went fishing with Bailey and he had his hummingbird live, just like, dude, we were out in the middle of the freaking lake, and I'm like, I would have never found these fish. Like, I mean, not saying that I'd find them anyways, but like, it's just one of those places like you would never stop hearing fish out in 22 foot and see these fish unless you had it. So it's like, again,
But if you see something on, a graph or something, if you see something where typically you wouldn't even go out there and check, you're like, well, shit, I got Mega Live now. Let me ride out there and let me see.
Mm-hmm.
Let me check real quick. And you check, and you're like, holy shit. Yeah. Because there's a lot of fish. I mean, I use side imaging a lot. That's my biggest thing. I use a lot of side imaging, down imaging.
Yeah.
There's so many more fish down there that you can't see on those two things that you can see on the forward facing. But then again, there's so many other fish down there that you can't see on the forward facing. But it still gets you. There's these places of like, you know what? I've been fishing a long time. That looks like a spot some damn fish could be.
Yeah.
And you have that technology to go. It's like, holy shit, there are fish here. And so you fish for it.
That's crazy. Yeah, totally. That is true. Like as far as electronics, way more fish than what you're seeing on your graph. What's funny is like I kind of reference every year they do. Well, except the COVID year, they do this show, the International Sportsman's Expo in Sacramento. They always do like this like big fish tank. It's like a big Bass Pro Shops tank where they do like lure testing. And they do a seminar, and every year the fish they get are from this one stretch in the Delta. It's not hardly more than a couple hundred yards. Same stretch every year, and they just go shock that stretch.
Yeah,
you fish that a million times. You might never get a bite, maybe get a bite or two, and they shock that stretch and pull up 7 to 10 pounders, and it's easy. They just one stretch, shock the whole thing, and pull them all up. And the point being is, even in places like the Delta, like there are so many damn fish down there that you just do not realize are there, that you're just not catching, and it's amazing. But I don't know. We'll see about the forward-facing sonar. I think you're right. I'll admit I'll probably get it, and we'll see how it does for me. But yeah, definitely not something I want to use all the time, just because I still do kind of like a little mystery in fishing. It's kind of old school. Like you just. Like I don't want to know like if there's fish there all the time. Like I like flipping docks. Why would I just go to a dock and like look at my little screen and see if you know what I mean? Like there's something
fish here.
There's something fun about
these Jim Bob pull up behind you and throw the same jig that you would have thrown in there and catch a 6 pounder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I just kind of like the art of fishing too. Like. Flipping, pitching, throwing a jig against dock or under docks, and just that part of that aspect of it, I think that mystery, that just unknown. I think I'll always want to have that, at least to some degree. So we'll see.
Hey, it's got a power button. You can turn that bitch off. I mean,
that's true.
It's there if you need it, but if you don't want it right now, you can turn it off. All right, being from California, me knowing Nick and the fishing community out there, the swim bait game, the swim bait and glide bait game for you. You have them, you throw them, we see it on your videos, you've caught some fish on them. Do you think that's something that you maybe, because what I hear and what I see is that people, you have to commit to that shit, right? You have to commit to it. Either you're a glide bait, swim bait guy, or you're a drop shot dink guy. So, like, is that something that you start throwing more of and maybe get kind of into a little bit more?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I'm in a weird position right now, as far as being a content creator, fisherman, still learning and evolving. So I don't know. I feel like swim bait fishermen are either, they're born swim bait fishermen, like that's like what they get into and they just throw swim baits, or they're guys that have fished for so long and they're really good or whatnot, and they just need to catch fish on a different technique, and they just get so invested in swim baits, and they only enjoy catching giant fish, so they just throw swim baits. And right now for me, I feel like I'm still learning all the time, and I'm not at that point where I'm like, I don't have 30, 40 years under my belt of fishing where I'm like so bored of catching fish on certain techniques. I'm like, well, I got to pick up swim bait. I'm sick of catching them on a crankbait or chatterbait or spinnerbait or whatever. I'm not at that point yet. And then you also have to factor in, content too. I feel like people who are really successful at swim baiting, they just don't go out and catch fish one day or maybe 2 days. They spend 5, 6, 7, 10, 15 days out on the water. And I don't have that time to go throw a swim bait and not get some kind of content. So that's just me being honest. I can try it for a day, and probably more often than not, I won't catch anything. But to be truly invested in the swim bait game and, know what you're doing and get a feel for the bait and learning it, like truly learning it, I think you need to be at a point in your life that that's all you want to do, or B, you only post one video a month and it's you 7 days out of the month going to swim bait.
And I asked that question because you're in ground zero of the swim bait world, and so that's and I think some of the realms that you're in, you have access to some of the people that are the best swim bait anglers in the world. Not only best in the world, they are the ones who started it. And so I asked that question because, you kind of have that opportunity to maybe tap into some of that knowledge and maybe get to fish with them and stuff like that.
I could. That's another tricky thing too, is because again, everything I fish is going on camera.
Right. Yeah. They a different breed now. I'm not saying they're a different breed from their uppity and this and that, but they catch a specific fish that is, there ain't fishing for 30 or 40, 3 to 4 pounders in a school. They're fishing for 1 to 2. The school is 1 to 2 or 2 to 3.
Yeah, exactly.
And they have to be like that because other people will fucking ruin it. As human beings, we will fuck up nature.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So it's going back to what I was saying, just the fact that those guys, like if I were to try to learn it or figure it out, it would take me years and years and years. And those guys have put in years and years and years, and they're not posting that stuff. Like I promise you, guys that are catching giants on swim baits, they ain't posting it. Like you're not going to know where they're fishing. Not many, at least.
Well, if you see Milliken's recent videos, he's figured out how to blur out everything except for him on the boat fishing. And, he got raked over the coals for that shit at OH Ivy. And he was like, man, we didn't mean to do that. We just did what we were supposed to do with the Lunker Share program. And they did all the other, they the ones told people where it was.
Yeah.
So, it does that. Oh, I got one last thing, and then we're going to get into shotgun ground. But one other thing. Sponsors. So, again, this podcast being built around content creators and everybody from somebody just starting to you and some other folks that have hit milestones. What's been a way that you've been able to get the sponsors? Because you got some big time sponsors that are behind you and that have helped you travel and fish.
Yeah. I would say just natural progression. Never trying to force anything. Everything has kind of come to me in an organic way. I've always used the stuff that I want. Like I said, like Native Watercraft, of course, is a big supporter. And
North Carolina.
Oh yeah, right there, man. Go make a trip there. You should go check it out. But and go to the brewery. Sierra Nevada Brewery too.
Benny be talking to me all the time about that, so I'm gonna have to go Benny and go out there.
And it's like 5 minutes from the Mills River Sierra Nevada Brewery, which, by the way, has like great beer, of course, but maybe one of the best chicken wings I've ever had. So shout out Sierra Nevada Mills River. But no, natural. I mean, again, I think, and this is actually what you were talking about earlier with your podcast. You guys' podcast was, you do social media, you do, something like content because you enjoy it. Like that has to be the root. That has to be like the baseline. You have to truly enjoy it, or else, it just won't work in the long run. So, like that, I think that's what it's been for me. That's helped is I started out doing it for fun, and it's still fun. It's still, really enjoyable. But there was never like, I never like started doing it to be like, oh, I want to like make X amount of money, or I want to get all these sponsors. I just did it because I enjoyed fishing and I enjoyed sharing the content, and everything kind of just happened naturally. Like things came little by little, and sponsors, I think the biggest thing with sponsors is like, you have to like actually use or like their product. You can't, it has to be something that, because I feel like people can totally tell nowadays if you're using something that you don't actually believe in. And
but pro anglers used to be the biggest liars in the world.
Oh, well, you can't lie anymore. If you have social media, you can't lie.
No.
And
there's some lures they can sneak by, but for the most part, they ain't sponsored by Strike King throwing Norman.
Yeah.
I mean, that shit don't happen no more.
And that's like kind of been the good thing about some of my sponsors, like even like with some of the bait sponsors, like I'll still use other stuff because it works and they're cool with it. Like it's I think that's like been the best. Like if I'm going to work with a company officially, like that has to be the best like the most important conversation is, I mean, yeah, we're going to work together, but I still got to use this bait this time of year. And everyone, has been like, yeah, that's fine. Just, you got to go catch fish and enjoy it. And, everything's been really kind of organic, natural. I feel like almost everything I've used, honestly, that's been a sponsor, I've used way before they even sponsored me. So I was never looking for sponsorship. I think I got lucky too.
But you've also got some sponsors that aren't like bait lure, rod and reel sponsors. And I think that's one of the biggest things that people who are trying to competitively fish, either locally, regionally, kayak, boat, professional, they're trying to get those endemic sponsors. And you got some that aren't your lure, bait, and tackle.
Yeah. Sierra Nevada would be the big one.
Yeah, Sierra Nevada, and then
which I'm out of, but cheers.
You don't have any more in the fridge? What the hell?
I got more. I can
go get one. I mean, don't sit there and be. Look, y'all, Greg Blanchard is on this podcast right now, parched. This man has an empty beer glass that he's been drinking the little bit of bubbles of foam from for the last 10 minutes. And he's probably got 3 fridges in his house, and 2 of them have Sierra Nevada, and the other one probably has lunch meat and Hungry Man dinners in.
Oh my God, that's actually somewhat accurate. I'll just say that. I need to get a tap right at my computer. Just like get a tap right like here, and then just like fill it up.
But I'm sure all you had to do is make a phone call, and it would probably show up at your house in 3 to 4 days.
That might happen, but no, that was again, like I kind of talked about being lucky and right place at right time. And one of our good buddies, Terrence Sullivan, who you probably have seen in some of the tournament videos, just a super cool dude. He's been at Sierra Nevada for almost 35, 40 years, I want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's, he knows Ken Grossman, the owner. He's been there essentially since the start. And I remember he messaged me on Facebook years ago, maybe 2020 or 2019, end of 2019. And just like a nice, I started at that time, I was starting to get a lot more like messages and stuff, and whatever, I'd filter some out and answer some. But I remember this guy, Terrence Sullivan, messaged me on Facebook. He's like, "Hey, love the content. I'm getting into kayak fishing. I work for Sierra Nevada. Would love to send you some beer." And the funny thing is, I had been drinking Sierra Nevada probably since 2013 or 14, because I always drank. I actually have drank Celebration quite a bit, usually around Christmas time with my family. But anyways, it was just one of those weird messages. I was like, well, free beer. All right. And he had me meet someone in the town I lived in at the time. And he just like, I met him at like his apartment, and he's like, he had a beer truck and just gave me all this beer. It's like, oh, this is cool. And, me and my buddies actually were drinking pale ale at some of the tournaments prior. I think maybe Terrence actually saw that, why he messaged me. But anywho, Terrence got into the tournament scene, and we started, as we started doing a lot more, just like at the time, I started doing more tournament videos that weren't just fishing. I'd show like behind the scenes. I'd show us at the campsite. I'd show us like drinking and eating greasy food and taking dumps in the morning. And then
somebody in the back of somebody's pickup truck full of all the beer cans that y'all drank that night. They're like, "What the fuck?" Usually the person who went to bed earliest.
We do have to keep it tasteful in the videos, but I can promise you there's a lot. The editing, I have to cut out a lot of
Look,
shit.
y'all need Mike to get his YouTube channel, and Mike's is all the shit that you have to edit out is all in his video.
Oh my God, it'd be epic. Mike is hilarious. I actually have a bunch. So it's funny is like when I edit videos, like there'll be certain lines that Mike will say that I just can't delete. I have to save them. And I have this folder of just Mike saying the most crazy stuff ever, hilarious stuff, doing such inappropriate things. He does. Mike is hilarious. And I've got all that compiled for one day when when I'm ready to retire from YouTube, I'll release that
video. Look, y'all, you need to get Nick to produce it.
Yeah.
And do that. So
yeah.
And the reason I ask you about, like, obviously Sierra Nevada and the other non-bait lure, blah blah blah, straight fishing companies is those seem to usually come from connections. But what you're saying is this one reached out to you from Facebook. And so for the folks that are creating content, this is another reason why you can't just be on one platform. You need to expand out. And Greg, you and I talked about damn ticky-tack, as I like to call it. In the beginning, you were like, "Man, I don't know ticky-tack." And I was talking about how well it's done for the podcast. I'm like, shit, now I need to. But, just being available on these other platforms, because you never know that's the only platform they have, or TikTok is where they find you. So being able to expand off of that, you've done a good job with that on Instagram. I don't do much on Facebook, but Instagram, you put stuff out on that with your YouTube too. So, making connections, just talking to people, being authentic, and being available through all the platforms out there.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you have to, that for sure. And then again, with Terrence, it was kind of, again, a little bit of luck, but also already having content. Like you can even see in our first Clear Lake video before we knew Terrence, there's Sierra Nevada everywhere. So it was, again, one of those situations that, right place, right time, but also I already drank Sierra Nevada. It just worked. It wasn't like a beer that I'd never had before. And it wasn't, we all drank a shit ton of beer at these tournaments anyway. So it's like a perfect partnership. And it's been amazing. Like I get a ton of messages all the time, and I'm tagged in, I don't even know how many Instagram stories of people like drinking Sierra Nevada and like tagging me. It's like, it's actually way more than I thought, but
that ROI for them is tenfold.
Yeah, I mean
just people tagging you drinking a Sierra Nevada because of Greg Blanchard. I mean, for them, that's what those folks want.
It's been a really good. I mean, I think both of us have really benefited from the relationship. I mean, obviously they've helped us out a ton too, like from shipping kayaks to the Bassmaster Kayak Championship, which I don't even know if they were allowed to. Terrence said he told like the owner, and he's like, "You did what?" But that's the good thing with Terrence. Terrence is like OG, so Terrence does whatever he wants. Like, we'll just show up there.
I'm the one that runs the show.
he basically is. It's hilarious. When we go up there to the brewery, we're just like, Terrence is like, take us anywhere in the building and try all these random ass beers. Like, oh, we're not allowed to show this one, but you can drink it. And we'll go to like the bar and like, get all these beers and food. And no, Terrence is super cool, but no, Sierra Nevada has been really good to us. And I do think it's been one of those partnerships where like it has, influenced a lot of people to drink Sierra Nevada. It's my buddy actually messaged me the other day. He's like, what did he say? He texted me. He's like, dude, my dad watches your videos, and ever since like he started watching, he only buys Sierra Nevada. And I'm like, I mean, I drink other stuff too. I drink water and coffee and stuff. But
hey, you got to send that Sierra Nevada. But like, hey guys, FYI, this is the reach I'm getting. And you've had last year you posted a video, the folks that gave you your tackle wall and the lighting. Who was that shit? I can't remember who that was.
Plano.
Yeah. So you had all that, but you've had a lot of that. All right, man. Well, look, we're at the point in time of Bass and Brews podcast, and this is where Alex really shines. He's pretty fucking shitty at the whole podcast stuff from beginning to this point. But where Alex shines is this, and I don't do as good a job as he does, but I'm going to do my best. This is the shotgun round, and this motherfucker tried to rename it last week on Joe's round to something else. And I was like,
shotgun round? That sounds dangerous.
Well, this is like the third time he's tried to change it. And I have just run him under the bus with changing it. And so anyway, this is a shotgun rounds. These questions are loaded.
Okay.
All right. They're loaded questions, but you just have to answer. There's no thinking. There's no there's no situation, blah, blah, blah. None of that shit. I ask a question. They're pretty easy. You just answer it. All right.
Okay.
And now we may dive into some of your answers a little bit.
Okay.
But I'm going to ask a question. You fucking answer it. There ain't no no thinking, no situations. You just answer it. You ready?
Oh, gee, I'm kind of nervous, but okay. Yeah, let's go for it.
All right. This has also sunk people's careers, a few. And we'll get into one of them later because he's a good friend of ours. We've already talked about it. Here we go. Crocs or flops?
Flops.
The fuck?
I just, when I think of Crocs, I just see Dutcher with his damn Crocs. Like when you said Crocs, his face with his little tinted glasses came up, and I just was like, yeah.
Look, I got a pair of Crocs, so
I've worn neither, by the way. I don't wear those.
Yeah, I know. You wear what the hell are the boots you wear?
I wear NRS boots, and I don't like showing my feet on the video. Like it's not necessary. Like just.
Well, I mean, this is I'm not going to try to be mean here, but also the natives used to have a water problem, and so if you try to be barefoot in them motherfuckers, your feet will be prunes by the end of the day.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I'll keep a boot on.
I wear Crocs, no socks, year round. We've had tournaments where it's been 19 degrees launching, and I'm in there ankle deep putting my damn kayak in the water. Crocs, no flops, the whole time. I had a buddy catch a 7.5 pound bass. He's got it. I'm like, hell yeah, man, let me take a picture. I roll up. He's got it. He's holding it. I'm good to take a picture. He puts the fish down. He goes, oh, you ain't got no shoes on. I was barefoot. It was like 22 degrees that morning.
I don't know how you do that. That's amazing. I could never do that.
I ain't got no fucking good sense. I'm country and dumb. Oh shit. All right. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Yes. But I'm also from New York, and I love a good pizza. So if it's a thin crust, well-made pizza, you could throw anything on there. I'm a strict, typically cheese, pepperoni. I'm not going to go crazy. Buffalo chicken every so often if I'm feeling wild, but I'll do it if it's the right crust, the right cheese ratio. Dude, you could throw a wet sock on there. I'd eat it. Pizza's freaking awesome. I love pizza. I'd say that's maybe you tapped into it. That might be my number one food.
There you go. There you
Pizza.
go. Mm-hmm. I will not order pineapple pizza, but if I'm there and somebody else ordered it, I will eat the shit out of it.
Oh yeah, if it's there in front of you. I mean, again, there could be, because we get pizza every so often, as you may guess, with our greasy food habits. But some of the guys like some interesting pizza, like meat lovers. I mean, that's fine. Some guys get like banana peppers and shit on them, and
I'm good with Supreme.
It's all good when you're having a few beers and there's pizza in front of you. I could care less what's on it, but no,
I'm a fat ass. I'm a fat ass. So if that bitch is out there and it's edible, I'm eating it.
Oh, I'm right there with you. Pizza, no doubt.
You gonna spend more on a rod or a reel?
Rod. Yeah, I think both are important, but the rod, man, like I've noticed a difference between, just since I've been fishing, I'm not saying like I have a ton of experience, but like I've noticed a difference between like a really cheap rod, maybe like $60 to $100, compared to like a $180 to $220 rod, like much lighter, much more sensitive. And if you're doing certain techniques like flipping and pitching or punching, and you're doing a certain motion, you can get like tendonitis real quick if it's heavy. So I think
plus those techniques that you're doing where it's a tick.
Yeah,
I mean, that tick's important.
Yeah, that sensitivity for sure. So both are important to me, but if I had to spend a little bit more money, and actually that's probably true for what I use, I think the rods are probably a little more high dollar than my reels that I pair with them. So I'll go with rods.
Yeah, I did a podcast with Armando for Kayak, Bass, and Beers, and that was the whole thing, was back and forth. And I spend more on a reel, but I know that having a rod is probably better. But it is what it is. There's a time and a place for a better reel and fuck the rod, and vice versa. I mean, depends on what you're doing on that side. All right, in a 3 hour session, do you want to catch 5 2-pounders or 1 7-pounder?
Oh, 1 7-pounder. Yeah. Because I'm thinking about the day I went the other day, and it wasn't even 2-pounders. It was probably 1.5-pounders. I caught 5 or 6, maybe 7 of them. But I would have totally taken 1 7-pounder all day over those 5, squeakers. So yeah, go 7-pounder.
I got a good anecdotal evidence story for this. Is I went out with a buddy of mine. We went to Harris, and we're out on his bass boat. And so we go out there and we caught some dinks, nothing big, but he hooked into a damn 7-pounder. So I think it was 7.2. And like, I was shaking, he was shaking. I mean, just catching that one fish.
Oh man.
We only caught 3 or 4 other fish, and they were small. They were 1.5, 2-pounders. But man, catching that one big ass fish, it jumped out of the water. It was on an A-rig. Nice. Getting it to the boat, netting it, all that shit, man. Like pulling it up, the whole thing from start to beginning is just. I've never gotten that excited, even in a tournament where that fish got me in the 3rd or 2nd place. Never had that feeling, that rush of adrenaline, that shake that just lasts for minutes after.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Like because the thing is, it just doesn't happen that often. So when it finally does happen, you're like, holy shit, like this is amazing. Yeah. And it's like, I'm totally with you. Catching 2-pounders all day, cool, exciting, fun. I'll still do
great
it.
Content.
Yeah, great content. It's fun. I just like jacking fish. But man, when you get that 5, 6, 7-pounder, That is something special. And I can say probably this year, I don't even think I maybe caught one over 7, maybe.
Really?
So yeah. So when it happens the next time, I'm probably gonna be shaking a little bit.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I already know the answer to this question, but it's part of the question, so we're gonna ask it. Wacky rig or Texas rig?
Oh, wacky. Gotta be wacky. I never got into the Texas rig game. I just love the action of a wacky Senko just fluttering down. I think it just is so much more enticing. And I typically fish it during the spawn or the springtime, and I guess apparently now this is the first time I throw a wacky Senko on the Delta this time of year, which is another interesting story. I think there might be actually spawning fish right now on the Delta, but we'll save that for another podcast. But always wacky. I just like just the way it falls better, and I think it's more enticing for a fish to bite.
So I grew up fishing Texas rig, and so that's all I ever threw. And then when I learned about wacky rigging, I threw the wacky rig, but I'm impatient as fuck. And so I was like, damn it. And I saw the Nico rig, and I ain't buying 3 weights for $8 into a Nico rig. So I use roofing nails, and I use them for 2 different reasons. One, first and foremost, they're cheap. 2, that roofing nail's got a big old head on the top of it. And so when I put it in there and I leave them sitting out, they're sitting out all over the damn place to get rusty so they don't fall out. But I like that because it doesn't flutter down, but it doesn't sink down. It's a slow sink. But that head, anytime I'm around rock, that Nico's sitting like that, and that head's dragging across rock. So I like the Nico rig versus the wacky, and I'll throw it before the Texas rig.
Interesting. So, I gotta try that Nico rig, rusty nail. Got it.
Yeah, rusty roofing nail. Gotta get
rusty roofing nail.
Okay. Now, I think it's 1/2 inch or 5/8, one of those two. All right. Slow jams or hype music?
Hype. Got it. Yeah.
What hype music are we? What is it death metal or
is
it little rap?
I listen to a little bit of everything. I don't listen to a whole ton of music though in general, but I'd say when I'm listening, it's probably either like working out or even like on the way to a tournament, like getting kind of pumped up. So it's probably a little more hyped.
I get it. Yeah, I don't listen to music on the water. Like I don't want to like nothing.
No, neither do I.
I'm usually listening to podcasts on the way to the ramp and shit. I'm not a music head by any means at all. But if I had somebody says you gotta listen to music on the way to the fucking ramp, I'm throwing on some fucking mid 90s to early 2000s rap music. That's the fucking shit that I'm gonna listen to.
Yeah, nice.
All right. Alex Rudd, overrated or underrated?
Oh, he's definitely underrated. Alex Rudd. He's got great content. Dude is a hammer. He knows fishing a lot better than most.
He's
I'll say
semi-professional.
Yeah, he might as well be. No.
So all right. We asked this question because we had him on. He ended up saying, "Man, I wish somebody was. I wonder if I'm overrated or underrated." And me and Alex were like, "Oh, fuck, we're gonna start asking this shit on the podcast." And 2 things. One, we've had people that are like, I didn't know who Alex Rudd was till he's on your podcast. And me and my Alex, Castanuega, however you pronounce his last name, like, oh my God, people didn't know who Alex Rudd was until they listened to him on our podcast. But yes, his content's really good. His personality is fucking unbelievable. His podcast is funny as shit. It's all over the place. It's great stuff. Great content for sure.
Yeah, definitely underrated. He knows his stuff. Like he's definitely, because like I think a lot of like content creators, YouTubers, whatever you want to call them, I think you see so many that I don't know. I don't want to say they don't know what they're doing, but they don't know. They don't have experience, like years of experience. And I think Alex is one of the dudes that like grew up fishing and has a lot of good, not only tournament experience, but he's, fished with some really great fishermen and just a lot of like knowledge. Like, so it's like valuable content. You just got to find it. And so, yeah, we'll go underrated for Alex.
Well, his semi-professional comes by his story that he fished a local tournament after his YouTube started becoming bigger and bigger, and he won the tournament, and they said he couldn't fish with him anymore because he was semi-professional.
Oh, really?
Not professional. Not
professional.
They said you're semi-professional.
Oh, semi. Jeez.
No, yes, they literally told him he was semi-professional.
Semi.
So he couldn't fish with them anymore because he was semi-professional. Because
I wish I could get that. I wish I could get kicked out of kayak tournaments saying I'm semi-pro, but I don't do good enough. I never win enough, so they never kick me out.
Look, Yakka ain't kicking you out no damn tournament.
You know who they should kick out is that damn Damien Tao. God damn, Damien.
Oh my God, that dude be winning the hell out of shit, don't
he? He's insane. He's really good. And I'm not a betting person, but if I were to bet money on anyone winning kayak tournaments or doing well, it'd be that dude. And I could almost guarantee if he got a boat, because I know people always like, well, it's not the same as a boat. Give him a year. Give him a year to get used to the boat. Get him time on the water. Get used to the trolling motor. He'll win. It's insane. He's fished out of the back of boats before and won tournaments as a co-angler. Like, it's just stupid. Like, the dude's like just on a different level. It's like it's hard to compare. So.
Well, we hear it a lot with kayak fishing growing and more people like Ike and folks like that getting to a kayak and how they talk about, let's take Ike, for instance, right? Mm-hmm. How he talks about how that shit makes him slow down, because we know Ike is all over the fucking place. But he talks about how it makes him slow down, fish the area better. I mean, so many people talk about the kayak fishing side of it, making them a better angler because they can't go 10 miles here and there. You have to really dial in their area in. And so women, for instance, women anglers, really good. Patience. Mm-hmm. They're slower. They're methodical. They ain't over there fucking flipping out 5 casts into not catching a fish. I mean, there's something to say about slowing down and taking it easy a little bit more and being in that. So, putting somebody taking a bass boat angler and putting them in a kayak and a kayak angler in a bass boat. Now there's the aspect of driving the bass boat that might be out there a little bit.
Yeah. It's those like little things you have to learn. Yeah.
But the art of fishing, I think, is on that kayak angler side. If you were to swap them.
Yeah. So what funny you say that. So I think that was the last video I uploaded. I actually went out with Damien. Dude was like kind enough to drive like 4 freaking. I didn't even realize. I felt bad after. I didn't realize it was so far from him, but it was like 4 hours for him to meet at a place, and we did like a kind of a collab video, so to speak, where he filmed his day, I filmed my day, and I mashed up the video to show our days, and he just wrecked me. He schooled me in fishing. But what was the interesting thing about it was when I was editing, because I had to, you have to get intimate with the footage. You have to look at it all. You have to watch it all. Essentially, is the dude just does things better than I do, for example, or the average angler. He makes further casts. His casts are way further. He works a bait longer. He works a bait better. I mean, he does have live, like Garmin and stuff, and he's amazing in his electronic, because, just because you have something doesn't mean you get to catch fish. So he has like the live scope, which helps. But I mean, he's been doing this for years. He's a better fisherman, both mechanically, tactically, he plans out his day better. He's more efficient with his time. And I'll tell you what, if you were a boat company out there, I would put that dude in a boat and be like, here's X amount of money, go fish this series and do what you can, because I truly believe he's the only person that I know kayak wise that would go, he'd go cause some problems in a boat if he got used to it.
There's what you just said is what distinguishes the top 1% of anglers versus everybody else. Cast longer, cast more accurate. They see shit quicker. Their intuition is better. Like the professional athletes. So I played college football, played with guys that played in the NFL.
Yeah.
The step above being an average athlete and being a pro athlete is such a high step. People don't realize. It's like, oh, if I had the time and money, I could be as good as him. You know what? If that was the case, you would be as good as they are.
Yeah.
Those are excuses. Those are excuses. And I met some good local anglers that are fucking good. They're good on the lakes that they're local to.
Yeah.
But they couldn't transition to that shit. They just don't. There's a whole different, and that is a whole different podcast. Damn it! One day I'm going to do one of those when I want to get some people on. All right. Have you ever eaten beaver?
No, never. I've been around
You're
beaver.
from New York.
You know what? I never had a hunting family. If that would make me have a better chance of eating beaver, I would try it. I mean, I've had deer, venison, beaver. No, I don't think I have.
It's delicious. It is the pig of the water.
Really? What part of the beaver is the best?
Well, the whole thing. I mean, honestly.
Okay. I don't know if that tail's got a little extra tenderness.
No, we ain't eating the fucking tail. We had Joe on. He said he ate some tail. I'm like, that's like eating whale blubber. I mean, that's
okay.
That's a big old no. You take the beaver and you clean it, and you gotta do some special shit to get the little sacks bullshit out. But anyway, you smoke it just like you would a piece of pork.
Really?
Put that bitch on there low and slow. It's very dark meat. It's a little fatty, but that's why you cook it low and slow.
Yeah.
And it's delicious. Just cook it like a pig and eat it like barbecue. Delicious.
I might have to look into like a beaver permit out here. I'm not even sure what the laws are, but they're all the fuck around me on the drive.
I can guarantee you in California, you would probably every Karen in the world would be after you.
Yeah, I'll save that one for another time.
Greg's next January video coming up is going to be him a catch, cook, and eat beaver video.
Oh my god, I can't even imagine. That'd be the end of YouTube for me. See ya. I'm done. I'm done after that.
All right. Do you eat largemouth bass?
No. I've had bass before. The last time I had a largemouth bass was when I was my first trip to California. So that first stint after I broke up with my girlfriend in SoCal, came up to the Bay Area, and I had a room that I rented, and it was this elderly Korean woman, really nice, super lovely woman, so nice to me. Rented a room. And she knew that I fished, and she wanted me to bring back a bass one day to cook and make a stew out of. And I did, and she made some like bass stew, I guess, and it was actually good. It was really good. But that was the last time I had a largemouth. I can't even remember the last time I ate a fish before that. That I caught. Striper, of course. Like I'm talking about bass. Like I remember when I was younger, I had when I went to Lake Ontario, one of the Great Lakes with my grandparents. We'd like rent a cottage when I was like super young, like 7, 8, 9. And I remember we'd keep like a fish or two, like a smallmouth, and I'd bring it home, and it would just sit in the freezer. And all I would do is just take it out and look at it like as a kid, just like look at this old ass fish and then just put it back in the freezer. Never ate it, just like looking at the damn thing. And I think my parents just like threw it out. It's like, what are you doing with this fish in the freezer? So I just haven't. Yeah, that's my black bass eating experience.
Well, look, we need to start eating more fish. That's one of the problems with fishing is that the catch and release has been detrimental to some of the fish populations. We got to eat them. There's nothing wrong with eating. There's a slot limit, there's a size limit, and there's a number limit for a reason.
Yeah.
So ain't nothing wrong with it, and they delicious. And I tell people all the time, I could fillet out catfish, brim, crappie, and bass, and fry them, and the majority of people wouldn't know the difference in any of them.
I'm sure I wouldn't. No, I agree with you. There's certain lakes around here when last year, a couple of years before, like you'd catch so many 12 to 14-inch spotted bass. It was just stupid. And a lot of folks are saying, yeah, keep your 5, cook them up. Spotted bass are delicious. And I mean, I'm not opposed to that. Like, I don't have any, I'm not sure if I'd put it in a video of me slicing up a bass, but, you know, for eating purposes, sure. Yeah, I love fish.
So we've got 2 videos Greg needs to make. Catch, cook and eat beaver. Catch, cook and eat.
Oh God! Yeah, that'll be the end of my YouTube career after those 2.
You never know. You might tap into the prepper / homesteading crowd and get a whole new niche.
Yeah. Let's see.
All right. So this last question is what Bass and Brews is known for. This is the question that has sunk or has risen careers.
Oh, shit.
So don't fuck this one up. All right.
Geez.
What are your top 3 sandwich proteins?
Top 3 sandwich proteins? Roast beef, chicken, because I had a chicken tender sandwich for lunch. And I'd go ham because I like ham and Swiss. Yeah, I got
all safe, all delicious. I can't argue with any of those. Guess what guest said spinach? You know him. You know him very well. You might have recently fished with him.
Bailey?
Spinach.
I mean, it is a healthy protein.
It's the motherfucker that shit ain't. It's got protein in it. It ain't no protein.
Oh God.
We give Bailey so much. This question he gets brought up. We reference him on this shit because he says spinach. I'm like, look, I've eaten mayonnaise sandwiches. I've eaten banana sandwiches. Never, not once in my fucking life have I put spinach on 2 loaves of bread. Like, this is fucking delicious protein.
I gotta ask him about that spinach sandwich. I wanted to say grilled cheese, but then I couldn't think of anything with protein in it. Grilled ham and cheese, maybe. But
yeah, you know what's funny as shit? Spinach is great on a sandwich. I love putting spinach on a sandwich. That crunch, that irony taste, like that texture, I love it. But when we ask this question, we ain't like, we had another guy say cheese. Sure, does cheese have protein in it? But who the fuck's eating cheese sandwiches?
Wait, so I got to ask, Bailey's sandwich, was it just spinach or was it?
No, his first answer was spinach. And me and Alex was like, what the? Hold the fuck up. We stopped the pot.
But he must put like something else on there. No, really?
That's not the question. He just said spinach. He was fucking dumbfounded. And then he came back with some generic answers because, you know, I don't know. You have to listen to the episode. That shit was a long time ago. I've drank a fuck ton of beer since then, so I could not remember. But yeah, he said spinach as like when you say top sandwich proteins, we're thinking roast beef, turkey, barbecue, beaver, you know, some bullshit like that. He says spinach. Here's a funny thing. He was on Ike Live a couple episodes ago, a couple months ago in studio.
Yeah.
And people were messaging the Ike Live show about, hey Bailey, what's your favorite sandwich protein? Or what's your favorite sandwich? And he thought it was me, and I was like, dude, that wasn't me at all.
Nice. All right. Well, next time I go to New York, I'll bring him a little package spinach.
Dude, oh my God, I wish we'd have done this for you. Next time you go, make a spinach sandwich for him and give it to him. Make sure you're recording on all this shit now.
All right, I will.
All right, man. That's it. We're done. So the next little part we have is this is a time for you to thank, you know, your sponsors, the people that help you fish, the folks that you want to holler out, family, friends, anybody like that. Who are the folks you want to holler out that make fishing fun for you?
Man, yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. It was a fun time drinking beer. I think I got 4 beers down during this, so
nice.
That's a solid effort as far as the beer drinking goes. Yeah, I just want to. I'll shout out the dudes that are part of my channel. We talked about them in the tournament videos, like the Mikes and Aldens and O's and Terrence and Dutch and all the other dudes. Like those guys are a hell of a fun time, and we drink a lot of beers and have a lot of good times. So. I'll shout those dudes out. And yeah, man, that's it. I want to thank you for having me on. And yeah, it was good. It's good conversation, man. I liked your questions. It was very good. I appreciate those.
Look, I ain't good at a lot of things, but talking and asking questions, I got that shit down. Hey, did Odeby ever get you a damn replacement board that he lost?
No, it was cool. Odeby. Oh, jeez. That day. So that was the day we went on the Cast and Crank podcast, and I'm not gonna admit or deny that we had a few beers prior to launching. So he's excused from losing my little serum about it. I'm really bored. But
he ain't had that shit 10 minutes either. He lost his shit pedaling.
Sunk like a rock too. Just like gone, just done, man. But you can't get mad at him. He's a good dude. So I was like, yeah,
that's what friends are for good times.
Yeah, all good.
All right. Well, look, Greg, thank you so much for coming on. This is awesome. I hate Alex couldn't make it. And I'll tell you this, like we had Matt Pangrak on the first time Alex was gone. He's like, shit, damn it. That's like one of the reasons I started a podcast, one of my heroes. And so when we started to schedule this, I started talking to you in July, and you're just like, man, it's going to be like November. I was like, fuck yeah, that's awesome. Great. Alex is going to be back. He's going to be available. And then he has some shit come up last minute tonight that he couldn't be here. So he's super bummed. But thank you for coming on. This was awesome. It was great. I enjoyed. Thank you for lending us 3 hours and 20 minutes of your time tonight. Y'all go check out Hookset Hoodlums, great apparel company. We appreciate them and what they do for us. Y'all, this is Bass and Brews Podcast. I forgot this starting off. Your weekly distraction from quality podcast content. This is where you come. Y'all have a good night. And hell, Greg, hold on.
I know the brinks